This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
With the 14th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Indianapolis Colts select Tyler Warren, tight end, Penn State.
Well, they had to be doing a dance in their draft room. This could not have fallen better for the Colts.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so Tyler Warren, my 7th overall prospect and the #1 tight end prospect on my board.
There is a position in football. He lined up at that position on offense.
This feels almost like need, person, fit, go. This one feels
value.
like
He's the best player
he's a
available.
terrific player, and Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones, they need this pass-catching tight end.
Tyler. Hello. Hey, Chris Ballard with the Indianapolis Colts, man. We're going to pick you right here. Welcome to Indy.
You're a hell of a player, man. You're going to bring great toughness to our team, man, and playmaking ability. We can't wait to get you here.
I think that, it's important kind of in general as a football player to be able to be on the field as much as you can, help the team out as much as you can. And as a tight end, it helps you kind of the whole offense, being able to block and be a threat in the passing game, opens up, everybody else in the offense and kind of just a scheme in general. So I think that is a lot of, really important for a tight end to be able to be on the field for all three downs.
How you like me now? How you like me now? How you like me now?
Mark Dykton, excellent per usual. It is quite the Friday here in the Circle City. Thank you for closing out the week with us. 13 hours away from Game 3 in Milwaukee. And James Boyd, as we were at West 56th Street last night, I felt the collective gasp from the entire 317 area code, maybe parts of the 765, 812, 219, whatever else I'm forgetting, when Roger Goodell got to the podium and announced the Dallas Cowboys take Tyler Booker. And as soon as it was Tyler Booker, and then 2 picks later, when Roger Goodell came up and said Tyler again, the exhale happened. The Colts get a tight end in one of the best college football seasons you have ever seen from a tight end. And as was alluded to several times in that open, he is much more than just that. Tyler Warren, Indianapolis Colt.
How many times does it happen where you get what you want in life? And we'll get into this. I know we talked a little bit off air.
I'd say about half the Christmases. Hopefully Colleen Bowen is not awake right now, but yeah, half of them. The Papa Shot was easily the best present. The air hockey pool table in one, I also love that. The plastic one, I absolutely loved it.
I still got beef with my dad because he never bought me a basketball hoop when I was growing up. I asked for it every Christmas, even now as a 29-year-old. But
man, you weren't born in Indiana. Jeez,
come on now. Dad was a hater, and he still is. But most Colts fans got what they wanted last night. I would think so. He fits a major need for this team. Tyler Warren, glaring needed tight end. And when you look at the stats, I mean, we were all in the media room last night, Kevin, and we were all just throwing out these ridiculous stats that you just couldn't believe for a tight end group. I'm thinking, hey, Mike Chappell, when's the last time a Colts tight end had 400 receiving yards? Was it this year? And he's like, nope, further back. Jack Doyle, 2019. Last time a tight end had 40 catches in the season, Jack Doyle, 2019. Who led the Colts in tight end catches last year? Kylan Granson, 14. Less than 1 a game.
That's the craziest one to me. Kylan Granson led the Colts last year in catches at tight end with 14. Tyler Warren had 17 catches in 1 game last year.
Yeah.
1 game. I'll never forget watching the USC game, and certainly Chris Ballard alluded to it several times. We'll play plenty of Ballard audio, some Warren audio. Why did Ballard feel like Colston Loveland went 10 and Tyler Warren went 14? That the reverse of what virtually everyone thought would happen with these tight ends. We'll certainly get to that here on this Friday morning. But again, that USC game, the Notre Dame game in the playoff, I think I've shared this before. He was throwing some Notre Dame defenders off of him in that playoff game that I had to do a double take and say, wait a minute, those guys don't miss tackles.
Yeah,
they don't get thrown out of the club. There is a, I want to be careful with the hyperbolic comparisons. But when you watch Tyler Warren at Penn State, I got Gronk vibes. He is a powerful player, is why I bring up Gronk.
Yeah.
He is a player that is going to kind of bully his way. He maybe is not the, svelte athlete that Colston Loveland is, as more of a receiving type, if you want to separate the two. But he played bully ball in one of the best conferences in all of college football. Again, he is 7th in Heisman voting. We have not seen a tight end finish that high in over 40 years. The 104 catches his final season at Penn State is just an absurd number. And I think what I like the most about Tyler Warren is Penn State used him all over the field. And it was wildcat, it was split out, it was inline. I'll go back to that Notre Dame game, James. I couldn't tell you the amount of happiness I had when I realized the play wasn't going to Tyler Warren. Like, it was a sigh of relief of like, oh my gosh, they don't have to tackle this dude for a play. He had that type of presence when I was watching that game, and certainly, many people saw him in the Big Ten throughout the year. So, yeah, it's pretty rare in the draft that we talk about a player for so long, and that player ends up being the pick. I would compare it a little bit to Ryan Kelly in 2016 when the Colts had the big need at center, and that's how it played out. And Chris Ballard felt like it was the cleanest pick, the easiest pick, I think might have been his exact phrase, since Quentin Nelson in 2018.
Yeah, you know what else was interesting? He said he never thought about trading up. And I'm like, I don't know how truthful he was being, but stood pat, stayed patient, got what many believe to be one of the more talented players in this year's class, didn't have to use any extra draft capital to go get him. And, again, you fill a massive hole in your roster. Now, for other teams, you might think, oh, is the number 14 pick worth it for a tight end? It is in this case. It is for this team. And I think that one of the other things that we've talked about is, can you have one tight end on the field so you don't have to necessarily have this obvious tip?
Yeah, you're not showing your cards.
Yeah, Colin Granson comes in last year. Oh, they're probably going to pass it. Molly Cox is in. Maybe not, but more than likely they're going to run the ball. And when he did make a catch, it was always like this gadget play or kind of a trick play. With Tyler Warren, you can be more traditional and therefore maybe deceive teams a little bit more because you're not giving it away pre-snap.
Yeah, I think something that also stood out to me about Warren is just, again, the versatility, the yards after catch. I think the Colts have struggled to individually have playmakers in that area.
56.2% of his receiving yards last year, he had 1,200 receiving yards, were post-catch.
That's a stupid number for a tight end. And I would say this about the Colts wideouts right now. While I think the wideout group has improved, I don't think they're a great yard-after-catch group. That, I think, is something that in a league where, the scheme chess match goes back and forth, sometimes you just need some dogs that say, hey, I'm breaking this tackle, and I'm going and doing something with the football. And that, again, Warren does it more bullying than maybe running away from people. And then, just to kind of put a bow tie on where the Colts are at tight end-wise, when I did the positional mock draft, I had it as the first-round need for this team. You're too serviceable at tight end. You're too average. Honestly, that might be a compliment. You're too average at tight end. You might say, honestly, the wideouts are serviceable as well. Like, you need to go out and try to get elite at pass
So you're saying
catcher.
you need a dude?
Yeah, a dude, a dog. I mean, however you want to describe it. And I think there's a misconception that this was all Anthony Richardson. Go look at Joe Flacco's numbers with tight ends last year. It's not like when Flacco played quarterback, those tight ends absolutely flourished either. So, to me, it was a must. And I think once the offensive tackles went, I believe the 3 of them went in the first 9. Once I saw that, Loveland on the board at 10, of course, I thought, all right, they're going to pick tight end here.
Okay, but how much do you think – because part of me just being cynical, I'm like, 13, someone's going to trade up and take this dude.
Yeah, that is a tough read. And again, we're going to play the Ballard audio coming up here about Colson Loveland going to the Bears at 10. I still don't know for sure how they would have gone had both been on the board. But I do think Ballard kind of accurately described it. And Ryan Pace, the Bears GM, said something very similar. A lot of it for them was about flavor and what they had on their roster.
Right, and they already have Cole Kmet in Chicago.
Who is a little bit comped to Tyler. Tyler Warren is a little bit comped to Cole Kmet is the better way to put it there. A little bit redundant, if you will,
right,
at tight end and, diversifying the skill group. I think that is why the Bears went Colston Loveland. Biggest draft surprise, we'll go around the table, non-Colts division. Mark Dykton, thank you for that opener. Sorry, I'm just now getting to you. How are you?
That's all right. I'm doing well. What time did you guys boys get to bed last night?
I exited earlier than James. I would say...
Slacker.
I got home and put a bow tie on one piece. I don't know, 12:30, 12:40.
Yeah, that was not me.
Round one went quicker than I thought it would, actually.
Yeah, I had one more story to do after. We had a quick story and like a post story, so I went to bed maybe around 2:30, something like that.
It's not bad.
Not horrible. I mean, I'll get a nap in today before round 2s and 3, but it's fine.
My biggest surprise was how spicy the AFC South is getting now. You got Travis Hunter, you got Cam Ward. I think that the haul that the Browns got for the Jaguars, boy, the Jaguars are putting a lot of chips in Travis Hunter's bowl because you gave up your future first to move up 3 spots. I feel like that was the one I was like, whoa, wow, that was surprising. That was a nice surprise out of the gate.
I'm trying to think. Was it the Falcons?
Yeah, the Falcons late. That for those that missed it, they gave up their first rounder the next year to trade back in and took a pass rusher, James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. Now the Rams with an aging quarterback. Stafford certainly has plenty of left in him, but they now have 2 first-round picks for next year. So, yeah, as you wake up today, Shadur Sanders still on the board. Will Johnson, the Michigan corner, fell. I think a lot of medical reasons around him. He is still on the board. So, again, right now, Colts are at 45 overall, 80 overall today. It's round 2 and 3, 7 o'clock. The draft will begin, as Chris Ballard said, with a Chris Ballard laugh walking off the podium last night. I'll probably trade back. Was that the exact phrase? It was something along those lines.
It was very close to that, and I was thinking, you know what? He's laughing, but he's probably not joking. I mean, that's a very real possibility because we all know how he operates, and it can kind of make sense. You got your dude at 14. Now can you kind of toggle a bit to recoup more draft capital, get more shots at the board, as he likes to call it, and try to bolster your roster even more?
Bengals did take a pass rusher. I was curious about that. What will that mean for Trey Hendrickson, if at all? And Jacksonville certainly trying to save whatever Trevor Lawrence is left there. They make, I would say, the move of the night overall in trading up from 5 to 2. Travis Hunter, Brian Thomas Jr. Oh, boy. I can already see them running behind the Colts defense when the Colts play in Jacksonville and lose for the 13th year in a row.
I was thinking Javarius Ward. Thank you for coming. And then also, you look at other players on the roster. I think it's going to be put a lot of stress on their defense. I mean, Kenny Moore, I would imagine, would slide up and guard Travis Hunter, but that's a talented skill position group, obviously, with the addition of Travis Hunter.
5.5-point underdog for Game 3. Pacers and Bucks tonight, 8 o'clock on our airwaves. 7:30, our coverage will begin. So draft starts at 7. I would guess the Colts would pick, I don't know, probably just before maybe the Pacers tip off. 7 minutes here in round 2, 5 minutes in round 3. We have got a ton to throw at you here on this Friday morning. Thank you for closing out the week with us. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Mark Dykton, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan. Number 44 at tight end has certainly been a good number for the Colts. Tyler Warren wears it because of his dad's affinity for John Riggins. The Colts are getting what Tyler describes as a 3-down tight end.
Yeah, I think that, it's important kind of in general as a football player to be able to be on the field as much as you can, help the team out as much as you can. And then as a tight end, it helps you kind of the whole offense, being able to block and be a threat in the passing game, opens up, everybody else in the offense and kind of just a scheme in general. So I think that is a lot of, really important for a tight end to be able to be on the field for all 3 downs.
James Boyd, I'm guessing better chance I play Augusta National tomorrow than Zaire Franklin gives up number 44.
I would think you are correct. Number means a lot to him. He wore, I believe, number 4 at Syracuse. Has a 44 now. Sentimental value there. So we'll see a different number most likely for Tyler Warren.
Last night, Chris Ballard describing the skill set of Tyler Warren. He used the T word toughness a couple of different times. I certainly want to get to that here a little bit later, but here was the Colts GM on the Penn State tight end.
He can do a lot now. I mean, he can play multiple spots. He's got the quarterback background, so he can play in the backfield. He's a great 50-50 ball catcher. After the catch, he's violent after the catch. I mean, he brings an element of toughness that I thought, we needed to add offensively.
James, I assumed, once the board fell, it was going to be Warren, but I will say 3 defensive linemen went right after the Colts, 15, 16, and 17.
Yeah.
Did you have any thought there or were you probably were more in trade back camp rather than take a defensive lineman, I assume?
Absolutely. But again, with Warren still being on the board, I'm like, man, that's a hell of a player to pass up, especially a position that you need. And I saw Mark's lip curl up a little bit when Chris Ballard mentioned his quarterback background.
Somebody was asking me, they said, is Tyler Warren the best quarterback on the roster?
Southpaw, Tyler Warren. He's a lefty there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he might be. Honestly, throw him into the competition.
Oh, good Lord.
At quarterback here.
Too many reps, Kev. There's not enough reps to go around.
We will continue to dissect. Are the Colts taking Shedeur Sanders at 45 today?
I don't know. Probably not, but
like,
that would be...
If you keep sliding, at some point the value...
Cleveland does have a couple picks early here. It'll be interesting on day 2. 7 o'clock, day 2 of the draft. 7 minutes in round 2, 5 minutes in round 3. Currently, emphasis on currently, the Colts have 45 overall and 80 overall. If I know Chris Ballard, a trade back is very much on his brain. So we'll see how today plays out. And obviously, you'll be juggling a couple things sports-wise tonight. Game 3 inside of Pfizer Forum up there in Milwaukee. The Bucks, 5.5-point favorites. James Boyd, your biggest key for the Pacers getting one on the road?
Making sure Damian Lillard doesn't turn to Damian Lillard again, because that dude can get going in a hurry, has more time to perhaps get reacclimated to the game. So I expect him to come out fast and furious at some point. Just got to make sure you keep stay attached to him. Don't give him any open looks, and hope you can withstand that first punch.
Yeah, I'm curious if, Damian Lillard is now going to be stronger moving forward, or will playing more games, a little bit of a condensed schedule now coming up, will he get weaker? Because he was really good in the first half the other night and then tailed off before he hit the big shot there late. So that is a huge storyline. I'm curious if Milwaukee changes the starting lineup. They've gotten off to horrific starts in this series. Lastly, for the Pacers, can your role players travel? They played so well in games 1 and 2. Can they handle the inevitable punch that will come their way tonight at 8 o'clock? Last night, we were juggling a little bit of both, not a ton, paying attention to the NBA. I said to you at one point, oh my gosh, James, have you seen this Memphis-Oklahoma City score? I believe when I said that to you, it was halftime, and they were up 25 points, and Memphis lost.
Yeah, John Morant got hurt. They were terrible after he exited the game, and now they're down 0-3. And I believe some serious questions will be coming to Memphis once they presumably get swept or lose in 5 or whatever, but probably swept at this point. That game last night is the gut punch because you had him, your best player, one of your best players gets hurt, and now you're down again 0-3. What do you do after this season? Because if you look back at it, I believe John Morant and this regime has won 1 playoff series in the last 4 years. So, in other words, you've done nothing.
63-31 in the second half. I thought I saw it's the biggest playoff comeback in league history.
Yeah, for a halftime deficit, I believe, 26 points down. So, yeah.
So Thunder up 3-0. The Clips dominate the Nuggets at home. They are up 2-1, and the Knicks get a big road win. Sounded like a pretty entertaining game last night, 118-116 over the Pistons. Mark Dykton, what did I miss in Major League Baseball? Thursday's always kind of a quieter day.
Yeah, not much. I mean, the White
to
Sox won, so that was good. But other than that, it was pretty quiet. I'm warning you right now, though. On Monday, y'all the bleep you're talking about my Cubs, your Reds better sweep the Rockies this weekend.
Oh,
the worst team in baseball. No.
Stop it.
They are the worst team in baseball. If your Reds can't sweep them, I don't want to hear any blank talking about the Cubs sweeping the Dodgers in 2 games ever again. So I'm just telling you, Monday,
fake pressure that you're trying to put.
Take them to church, Mark.
Monday might be a slap in your face, audio-wise, if your Reds don't get it done this weekend.
Yes,
I'm just warning you.
The audio-wise, caveat was very needed.
I've got
more
years.
verbal threats I've gotten here. Maybe in my 35 years on this earth here.
It was only 2 games. Doesn't count. You're playing the Rockies.
Portal
you better win all
news
3.
in Bloomington, IU adds 6'7" shooter Nick Dorn from Elon. I still have PTSD from him lighting up Notre Dame last year. 74 threes on 37% shooting. It's unbelievable. Like, Indiana gets a portal commit. I'm just like, oh, yeah. Skilled dude who hits a lot of threes. That's literally been 90% of their portal answers.
Yeah, I was thinking to myself, we need some rebounding, some defense, but gosh darn it, you're going to make some threes.
So Chris Ballard says, did you play in the Senior Bowl? Are you a team captain? Do you athletically test well? Darren DeVries says, did you play at a mid-major? Do you shoot the 3 well? Are you skilled?
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. To be fair, as James said, Indiana did add a little bit on the rebounding, rim protection. Actually, a guy from Florida, Sam Alexis, ankle injury, kind of kept him away from their rotation late. And if you watch Florida, they rotated those 4 bigs a lot. Alexis, 6'9", 190. You will be projecting him into a bigger role. He played 2 years at Chattanooga, 1 year at Florida, but Indiana certainly needs to add a little bit more in the front court. Alexis added yesterday. Lastly, oval test yesterday. You had some fireworks early. Kyle Larson kissing the wall. Takuma Sato, more than a kiss there. So certainly 2 notable names, 2 very different experience levels over there at IMS. But great weather day for these 2 practice days that they were able to get in. And now nothing on track oval-wise until May 13th here at IMS. Why did Chris Ballard feel like Colston Loveland went 10 and not Tyler Warren? We'll explain that, throw that audio your way. Much more on Tyler Warren becoming a Colt on the other side. Fan Morning Show rounding out the week. Why did Chris Ballard feel that Colston Loveland went 10 and not Tyler Warren? We'll hit on that coming up here in a few. Again, round 2 coming up and round 3 coming up tonight, 7 o'clock, the start of that. Chris Ballard, semi-jokingly, kind of, I don't think he was joking, reference trading back here coming up tonight. That's been pretty usual for him. We'll see if that happens. 45 overall for the Colts here in round 2. James, I think one thing I'm struck by with Tyler Warren, again, the versatility of him at tight end speaks for itself. And I think Shane Steichen will certainly want to utilize that. Penn State had him as a Wildcat quarterback a lot. And I want to make sure our audience realizes this was not some like tush-push dude. This was not, Baltimore's done this. Baltimore's used Mark Andrews as like a tush-push option here. 3rd and 1, boom, you have the tight end come in motion. Next thing you know, he pops his hands under center, and boom, he sneaks forward for a yard or two. Tyler Warren averaged 8 yards per carry in college. So this is not just a inline blocking tight end. This is a guy that if you watched Penn State this season, they used him all over the field.
And again, volume, 26 carries, 218 yards, 8.4 yards per rush. It's impressive stuff, Kevin. And I also think that when you were talking about things that might have stood out about Tyler Warren or struck you about him, I thought you were going to say the draft party. That was very tame. And I was like, wow, you're getting just a football dude.
I thought Grandpa had fallen asleep.
They showed the video of him and his family, and I was like, is his phone working? Does he have signal?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Biggest moment of your life, I would imagine. And he's
I thought
just
someone had pressed pause on the draft, and they were still at pick like 9 or 10.
Yeah, it sounds like he's all ball. So
all ball. Chris Ballard used cleanest pick since easiest pick. I think is actually the phrase that Ballard used since Quentin Nelson. I guess what do you think he meant by that? Just like
I think
can't
it was
teach
all of
the
it.
production he had at Penn State / this is a dude that isn't going to be super boisterous, i.e. watch the draft video of his reaction. He's, all ball type.
Yeah, I think it's part of that. It's also, shout out to Anthony Richardson for tweeting this. We got a dog. I think it's dog. I think it's production. I also think it's the mentality and probably the background where you don't have to worry about the character or anything like that. Like everything I've read about Tyler Warren, and believe me, we read about a lot of different players, and occasionally there will be a player that had some off-field issue, or maybe their work ethic is being questioned, or maybe they weren't the best teammate or whatever. None of that seems to be the case with Tyler Warren at all. And everything you read about the guy, besides watching what he does on the field, which is dominant, at least this past season he was dominant, is high character, maybe a bit quiet, mild-mannered, but goes about his business, workmanlike approach, and you can appreciate that. And that will certainly endear you to your new teammates in Indianapolis, especially if you can produce.
Chris Ballard, last night, I don't know. There are times I think he's a little bit more expansive on draft picks. Certainly he had some comments that definitely stood out about Tyler Warren, but I did think it was interesting from a draft standpoint, Colston Loveland going 10 to Mark's Bears. Certainly if you looked at mock drafts leading into last night, I think Loveland was moving up on a lot of those boards, and him and Warren were very close. I don't know how many mocks, though, I saw that had them separated in the manner we saw them last night. Loveland going at 10, Warren going at 14. I didn't know how much Chris Ballard would entertain the question, but I thought he did a little bit. Why he felt like Colston Loveland went 10 overall to the Bears.
Were you surprised Loveland went with Warren?
Flavor, I mean, that's a better question for Ryan in Chicago than me. Guessing they got Cole Kmet. Probably think, Loveland's probably a better fit in combination with Cole Kmet. That'd be my guess, but you need to call Ryan and ask him that.
Mark,
Get
Ryan,
to Chicago, Kevin.
Ryan Pace.
What are you waiting for?
Who Ballard is referencing there, for those unfamiliar. That's
Ryan Poles.
Sorry, I'm thinking of the old Bears GM, Ryan Poles. Was Ryan Pace was the old guy, right?
Yeah. They basically just changed nameplates because they had Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy, and then they traded out for Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus.
Isn't that something?
That's not confusing at all. But, I watched Ryan Poles' press conference last night. He pretty much said the exact same thing that Chris Ballard just said there. Ballard was spot on in, If you look at Cole Kmet, for those unfamiliar, former Notre Dame tight end who the Bears have, him and Tyler Warren, I think stylistically there are some similarities where, Poles specifically mentioned 12 personnel. When you have 2 tight ends on the field, you've got Kmet, who again is more of maybe a 3 down, help you out. You're not tipping your hand, whereas Loveland is more of the receiving type of a tight end. That's probably where his strength is. So again, Poles mentioned is a convo they had a whole lot, debating Warren and Loveland, but they felt like Loveland was the better fit with the roster. Mark, were you good with that? Would you have preferred Warren?
No, I told you a while leading into it. I thought it was more of a luxury pick to take tight end or running back, but when you saw, especially Kelvin Banks going to the Saints a pick earlier, I'm like, okay, it's kind of a wrap on, any offensive lineman or defensive lineman. So I was like, okay, we'll see what they do. So I was bracing for Tyler Warren. So when they called Colston Love, I'm like, okay, that works. He is stylistically different than Cole Kmet, so I can dig that. And then I was hearing what Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles are saying to him and stuff, and all the post-draft press conferences and everything like that. So I'm like, okay. I mean, Ben Johnson is going to utilize him. The comp to him is Sam Laporta, which obviously Ben Johnson is very familiar with the Lions.
Yeah.
So, hey, if he's going to be Sam Laporta, go ahead. I'm fine with it.
Mark's happy man.
We are nitpicking beyond belief here. Again, I largely think it was simply, as Ballard said it, flavor. What do you have on your roster? The Colts don't really have anything from a tight end standpoint on their roster. There is part of me that's a little curious, had both been there on the board, what would the Colts have done? But
1,000%. Well, questions we'll never know the answer to.
Some people would say with Warren, he didn't test at the Combine or the Pro Day. Rick Venturi actually mentioned this with John yesterday.
So no relative athletic score that we always look at.
Correct.
Is it super high? He did not have one of those.
I think some people are curious, what would he test in the 40? Is he the speed separator? Again, we're getting into some nitpicky things here, but that would probably be where you would have a little bit of a question. I mean, again, he's more of brute strength versus running away from you. That's what you saw at Penn State. In a wonderful contested catch guy. I mean, there were so many times just watching Penn State.
Yeah.
I felt like Drew Aller was, because frankly, he's not a good quarterback, just throwing the ball away or just throwing it up for grabs. And I'm like, boy, there's a hope and a prayer. And then boom, 44 comes down with it. Ballard said he had the best hands of anybody in the draft.
And Dane Brugler, our guy at The Athletic, who is our lead draft analyst, he had a line in his draft analysis that said Warren had more one-handed catches than drops last season. He had 3 drops, and he obviously had a lot of volume, 104 catches. To have 3 drops and 104 receptions lets you know the guy doesn't let a lot of, footballs get past him.
Yeah, and I think I guess 2 things stand out to me, too, about the pick itself. I go back to a story that Shane Steichen has shared before of you go back to their Chargers days. They had a rule with Phillip Rivers. If you find out Antonio Gates is in man coverage, you don't throw the ball anywhere else.
Right.
Just a Gates rule. If it's man, you're going there.
My guy's better than your guy.
The thought and the hope is Warren will grow into that. At 6'6" and 260, while he might not run away from DBs and linebackers.
Who cares?
Nobody's built like that at the second and third level, even of an NFL defense. And then the other aspect, too, is, there's this big debate, James, around tight end and positional, value and all of that. Well, you can certainly debate you taking a tight end in round 1. Yeah. 1, I would say Warren showed at Penn State he can be more than a tight end. And 2, don't act like for 1 second teams that get on a run in the NFL don't have an elite tight end. You look at last year in the Final Four, you had, obviously, Travis Kelce. You have Dallas Goedert.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a Detroit team that's gotten on runs with Sam Laporta. You've had a Baltimore team with Mark Andrews. You've had Dalton Kincaid.
Was it Washington ahead with
George
Zach Ertz?
Kittle. You had Zach Ertz. I mean, if you look at the last 2 years, I mean, those are the tight ends of these Final Four teams. You won't see teams that don't have a tight end, that have the Colts tight end room, frankly, going into last night. So, sure, a lot of those guys that I just named, you don't find in round 1, but don't think for a second that in today's NFL that the tight end position doesn't mean important things if you want to, build a championship caliber football team.
Yeah, this isn't to, go back to the John Riggins drawback. This isn't fullback being phased out of the game, basically.
Correct.
Tight ends still matter. And I even go back to a conversation I had with our Lions reporter at The Athletic, Colton Pouncey. this past season when they played the Lions, he was like, man, these are their tight ends? How would they expect Anthony or any quarterback to succeed when these are their tight ends? And I'm like, dude, we've talked about this ad nauseum in our market. And I think of Zach Ertz and what they did in Washington to bring him in for a guy like Jaden Daniels. And Jaden Daniels is a really good football player. And maybe he'll be good, regardless of who's necessarily his tight end. But it certainly helps to have that security blanket over the middle. And that's something that Chris Ballard kind of touched on last night. Like, how many mismatches are you going to have, in theory, on the football field? And the majority of them are going to come when you have a linebacker on your tight end who maybe isn't tall enough, and the same thing, or fast enough, and then the same thing happens with DBs where you're just not big enough. And I would expect occasionally, not even occasionally, but just it to be a part of their offense for Tyler Warren to beat that dude in front of me. You can't guard me. And, I hate to get too rudimentary because football is a very complicated sport, and it can get super in the weeds, and it does. But sometimes you just need a dude that's better than the other guy.
Yeah, and the Colts just haven't had that in the pass catching department. They just don't have enough dudes. And I mean, I would argue you've got to go back to, what was Hilton's last kind of prime year? I don't know, 18?
That's a fair, I think, assessment, though.
It's 2025.
Yeah.
So you got to go back a while. And I think, again, that is the hope with this sort of pick. A couple other items from last night. Probably more of the state of college football than anything. 26 of the 32 picks came from the SEC and the Big Ten. You think we have a power two in college football?
I was going to say, does it count when every single school is in these two conferences, it seems like?
That's probably where it is. What do you make of Jacksonville? Trading up from 5 to 2 and taking – you want to talk about one of the more excited individuals last night after being drafted? That pink suit of one Travis Hunter.
For me personally, I was thinking, wow, I get to watch one of the more exciting players. I don't want to say controversial, but like I would say maybe polarizing is a better word. Just, can he play two positions? Is he a cornerback? Is he a wide receiver? I believe they said on the broadcast last night he's the first player to be announced at two positions to be drafted. And I just want to see how it all kind of plays out. And so we'll get a firsthand look at least twice a year over the next few years with Travis Hunter. So to me, even with Cam Ward going number 1, we'll get a chance to see some of the top picks on a regular basis. And, of course, Colts fans want the team to go out there and crush them. But selfishly, I just want to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I thought something that I've noticed about the AFC South now over the last couple of drafts, two of the biggest trades we've seen in the draft, bar none, lately. Houston moving all the way back up to number 3 to take Will Anderson Jr.
Yep.
And then last night, Jacksonville going from 5 to 2, which is very significant when you look at the actual trade package that was sent to Cleveland. So that's interesting from the AFC South of like Houston saying, whatever. We feel like from a pass rushing standpoint, Will Anderson Jr. too good to pass up. We need to get back up there and get him. Jacksonville last night, it's a new regime, a new GM, a new head coach. I don't know if they view it as we think this is a generational type of prospect, and B, we need to save Trevor Lawrence. I felt like, I don't know if they were, when I say both of these picks were surprising, I don't think they're surprising in the same realm, but like it was a significant trade up by Jacksonville last night. Carolina took the wideout out of Arizona, Ted McMillan at 8 overall. Both of those I think were, at least in our little media room, both, whoa. Both of those are franchises trying to save their young quarterback, and that caught my eye a little bit there. And I guess
so. You think that Hunter is going to be more of a receiver in Jacksonville?
Well, I
Duval.
Thank you, Liam Cohen, new Jags head coach. It sounds like he will play both ways. Again, the degree of which he will do that remains to be seen. But if you look at it last night, Hunter, McMillan. I don't think the Bears qualify. I think Caleb Williams showed enough as a rookie. You're not trying to save the kid. The Colts are obviously in a position where they need to try and save their quarterback.
Did you see the graphic last night, by the way, where they were showing like the teams picking in the top 10 their starting quarterback, and they were the only team in the top 10 with the slash.
I know. Did they have to use smaller font for the Colts?
They did. I was squinting at them. I'm like, man, this is like.
They have to go 10 Arial for the Colts, and they went 16 times New Roman for all the other teams.
Pretty much.
That was a sad state of affairs. I'm not gonna lie. I saw that. I'm like, oh man, that's a tough look right there. That's not great.
Tyler Warren, 3 completions at Penn State last season against Southpaw. 6'6", 260 quarterback. You don't see that very often. Well, I guess
I think he was 3 for 6 passing last year.
Mm-hmm. Again, for those that missed it or went to bed last night, Shedeur Sanders is still on the board as we wake up on this Friday morning. The Giants came trading back into round one, actually with Houston. Houston did not make a round one selection, the other AFC South team, but the Giants took Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss. So 2 quarterbacks in round one last night, and Shedeur Sanders, with Cleveland having 2 of the first 5 picks coming up tonight.
I asked this on Twitter. I was like, can we just have Hard Knocks this season just be the Giants quarterback room? You've got Jameis Winston, Russell Wilson.
So you want us to go to
Tommy
church.
DeVito, and now you have Jackson Dart. Can you imagine that quarterback room on a daily basis?
Did you see Mrs. Dart last night?
Was that Mrs. Dart or was that his mom?
Oh, yeah. I meant his mom. Yeah, Mrs. Dart. Yeah.
She does CrossFit or something. She had some guns on her.
Jackson, I don't know if Jackson's married or not, but yes, the mother. Yeah, she looks like she could be with Rick Carlisle, James Johnson in the alley waiting for.
Oh, yeah. I don't want to see her. I just Googled her. Yeah, I don't want to see her in an alley.
Yeah.
I'm good.
What did Rick say the other night, Mark?
I want to see the faces of those guys.
Just picturing him walking out of the tunnel last night, yelling that tonight in the crowd.
I mean,
with
again,
Jackson Dart's mom behind him. Oh God,
Pacers
we're in trouble.
New playoff security.
I mean, you think about tonight's game, though, it is a huge one because this is a chance for you, if you're the Pacers, to put a stranglehold on this series and to basically spell death for the Bucks. Because if they win this game, it's like, oh, man, we're back in the series. We got a chance to tie this thing back up. But we all know Game 3, if you're up 2-0, you go up 3-0, in the history of, basketball, NBA, you're not coming back from that.
I think the biggest key tonight is just punching back. Like, you have punched every single time in this series.
Yeah, and I think they're going to get their lick in tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's inevitable. James, look at it last night. The Grizzlies have been run off the floor in the 2 games in Oklahoma City, and they punched. Now, what the Thunder do? Obviously, the jaw injury contributed to it, but they punched back. Knicks Pistons had that feel as well.
Yep.
Like, now that this series is shifting on the road, you have made Doc Rivers take the first time out in the first quarter each of these games and the third quarter. Does that continue tonight? And if it doesn't continue, how do you react? I think the Pacers are very equipped to punching back. I would be a little surprised if they don't do that. And then the other thing is, if you look at this series so far, and specifically let's just look at the starting group, because I think the bench also would fall into this, but let's just look at the starting group. Take your all-stars out of it, Halliburton and Siakam. Nembhard, Nesmith, Turner, they've shot it well above their averages.
Right.
Well above their averages.
Yeah.
Does that continue on the road? Bobby Portis, for a role player, that man had a hell of a game in Game 2.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, I think the role players tend to just play better at home, frankly. That would be a question I would have of those guys, the others for the Pacers. While I do think the Pacers have more depth than the Bucks, will that continue to show when they're wearing road uniforms?
Also wonder if Giannis will go nuclear one of these games. He's been Giannis, don't get me wrong. He's been, a massive, crazy good player. But does he have like a 50-point game in him to just drag you to at least one victory? Like, he's that kind of player. And I'm just wondering, you get back home, get the crowd behind you, guys knock down some shots, maybe you get a little more spacing, and you end up with one of the more dominant games that we've seen, because I feel like I'm just kind of waiting for him to go off and just say that, okay, if these guys aren't, ready to go, I'll just drag them myself. And then he gave some really, I felt like you could have played some, some music behind what he was saying, like, dun-dun, because the guy after the game is like, I know what the effing deal is.
Yeah, Giannis after Game 2 had some pretty strong
And I was
quotes.
like, he's like, this is how I feed my family. I'm like, man, this is like.
Another guy we'd like in the alley.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
We're ready to go, boys.
No
I want to see the faces of those guys.
Not if Giannis voted for Tyrese. You don't want to see his face. But seriously, when he walked into the media room afterwards, he is humongous. And all I could think was like, I wonder what it's like to, walk into a room and you're just like, I could whoop anybody in here.
I think I felt
really
this
could.
about one other person. I've seen Giannis in person once. I've always felt like Quentin Nelson has to kind of like walk sideways into doors.
Yeah.
I feel that way about Giannis. Those shoulders, It's something about the shoulders.
Yeah.
Not to get like too in the weeds on Giannis's physique here, but
He looks
we are.
like an action figure, though.
Yeah, he really does.
Like small waist, big shoulders.
Yeah, Hulk.
Yeah. And then to Quentin Nelson, I mean, I'm hoping because Chris Ballard compared him to Quentin Nelson. I was going to say John Riggins, but Tyler Warren. Quentin can be a little intimidating when you're going to ask him a question, and this better be a good one, or otherwise he will crush you for it. So I'm thinking to myself, like, man, hoping Tyler Warren isn't quite as
Warren's a
ornery.
better quote than that. Come on now.
No, I mean as far as being prickly after a game or something like that.
Got it.
For the quote, yeah, he was. But nevertheless, Colts fans don't care. I mean, Quentin Nelson is going to be a Hall of Famer one day. So if you get that caliber of player, if that's what you're getting, even half of that in tight end, obviously, or a third, that's a really good player. And, the last tight end you chose in the first round, not Jack Doyle, it was Dallas Clark. Was a good player. Really good player for them.
What do the Colts need on day 2? We'll talk about that much more on Tyler Warren and getting you set for 8 o'clock tonight in Milwaukee. It's Pacers and Bucks 5.5-point underdog in Game 3. Thanks for closing out the week with us. Kevin Bowe and James Boyd. Mark Dykton here on The Fan.
This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
With the 14th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Indianapolis Colts select Tyler Warren, tight end, Penn State.
Well, they had to be doing a dance in their draft room. This could not have fallen better for the Colts.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so Tyler Warren, my 7th overall prospect and the number 1 tight end prospect on my board.
There is a position in football. He lined up at that position on offense.
This feels almost like need, person, fit, go. This one feels
value.
like
He's the best player
he's a
available.
terrific player, and Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones, they need this pass-catching tight end.
Tyler. Hello. Hey, Chris Ballard with the Indianapolis Colts, man. We're going to pick you right here. Welcome to Indy.
You're a hell of a player, man. You're going to bring great toughness to our team, man, and playmaking ability. We can't wait to get you here.
I think that, it's important kind of in general as a football player to be able to be on the field as much as you can, help the team out as much as you can. And as a tight end, it helps you kind of the whole offense, being able to block and be a threat in the passing game, opens up, everybody else in the offense and kind of just a scheme in general. So I think that is a lot of, really important for a tight end to be able to be on the field for all 3 downs.
How you like me now? How you like me now? How you like me now?
Tight end wearing number 44 certainly has helped this franchise in a big, big way. 6-7 months after Dallas Clark went into the Colts Ring of Honor. Number 44 from Penn State coming to the Indianapolis Colts, although I think Zaire Franklin might have a word or two about that jersey number. Good Friday morning to you. We're recapping it all. The Colts take Tyler Warren at 14 overall. We'll get you set for tonight. Currently, emphasis on currently, they have 2 picks, 45 and 80 overall, round 2 and 3. And obviously, speaking of 3, it is game 3 tonight. In Milwaukee, the Pacers 5.5-point underdog. You surprised by that number, by the way? 5.5?
I'm not, because I think Vegas is probably thinking Damian Lillard will be more of Damian Lillard in game 3. And then on top of that, they're at home. So
I thought it might be a little closer than that. I can see where you're coming from on that, but I thought it'd be maybe a little bit more in the 2 or 3 range.
Yeah.
So.
And maybe they're thinking, to your point, Kevin, these guys have to come down to earth at some point with their shooting.
Sure. And, last night we saw, obviously, a variety of things from these series starting to shift to the other site here in Game 3.
I would like to see how the Pacers handle the Bucks starting the game, because I feel like if the Bucks get off to a hot start, the crowd will be into it and all that stuff, but if the Pacers are going to, weather the storm to start out and kind of take the crowd out of it. Like, if they got to, a double-digit lead pretty early, that Bucks crowd is going to be like, oh, no,
well, and again,
here we go.
The Bucks change their starting lineup? I mean, you feel like they have to. Remember, the only change from 1 to 2 was just Lillard playing.
And that's who you would normally have in there anyway.
Kuzma, Prince, Lopez. I mean, do you start Portis over Lopez? Just a lot of decisions, I think, for Doc Rivers coming up.
I think you clone
tonight.
Giannis.
Well, that would be nice.
Figure that out, if fires a form, all you smart people in Milwaukee.
If we're cloning Direwolves, I think we can start cloning Giannis.
I don't know much, but I know Giannis's brother is not a clone of him. The one that used to sit on the end of the bench and just start fights.
I saw him after the game when I was leaving game 2, and he's in the hallway.
Is he still on the team?
No, but he was talking to somebody I would imagine in the front office or a coach or something. He's breaking down what they have to do to fix everything, and I was thinking, wow, to be Giannis's brother, because I'm like, do these people really want to hear from you right now?
Yeah, I don't think you have Pat Connaughton's brother standing there, telling the coaches
exactly
what needs to happen. One thing I was struck by last night from Chris Ballard, James, was, and this goes back to the season-ending press conference. It was late in the press conference. I forget necessarily how the question came up, but the question was something to the effect of, what do you need to do or be better at in these late season moments? The Colts have annually, in the Ballard era, especially over the last handful of years, when the season has been on the line, when you've had these must-have games in December,
yes,
they've lost. And they've lost to some sorry-ass teams and some sorry-ass quarterbacks in December. And
the Giants game from last year.
Oh, I mean, hell, go back to Taylor Heineke and the Falcons. Go back to Jake Browning and the Bengals.
I bring that one up specifically because afterward I remember asking.
That's the cherry on top.
Yeah, I remember asking Michael Pittman Jr., hey, why can't you all get over the hump in these, bigger games? And he's like, yeah, well, we have one big game. We just didn't win this one. And I wanted to tell him so badly, when? And I get it. You want to stay optimistic. You want to stay together, but your team folds. Why? Why?
Yeah, Ballard's answer, he used a big word that I think when you use that in football, it gets my ears a little bit perking up, and that is we lack tough guys. I mean, he said that, toughness.
Yeah.
We don't have enough tough guys. I need to add more tough guys. Those are all things Ballard said back at the end of the year.
Toughness and competition.
He hadn't brought up toughness really since that this offseason. He hadn't necessarily brought that up. And I get it. There are levels of Cam Bynum and Travaris Ward that I think will add a little bit of that. But last night, he went back there. I mean, he met with us for about 10 minutes last night. And honestly, I thought Ballard was a little shorter in some of his answers than he typically is in those settings. But he referenced Tyler Warren instilling toughness into the Colts football team on more than one occasion last night. James, I was struck by that. Certainly when you watch Warren play, he plays with a bully ball mentality. He throws some dudes out of the club. There's more of a think more Gronk and less, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like a tall tight end that runs in the open field. I don't know, maybe Kelsey. Like I don't know if Kelsey's necessarily like throwing dudes off of him. That is what that's how Warren created his yards after catch. He's not necessarily separating with speed. He's separating because he's bullying you. And I thought Ballard bringing up that toughness word on more than one occasion last night certainly caught my eye.
Absolutely. And you think of toughness, you think of Tyler Warren, 8 years old, watching John Riggins videos and the violence and things like that, that to me were described about his game. They used the word violent. He used it. Chris Ballard used it. I'm sure Stan Steichen will use it at some point, but violence was the word that kept coming up.
Tyler Warren just made a fan of every north of 50-year-old football fan in the world when he referenced John Riggins last night.
Yeah, so that was actually before, like first year of tackle football. My dad pulled up the YouTube highlights of John Riggins, and because he was a Washington fan growing up, and he was like, this is how I want you to run the ball and kind of how I want you to play football. So I wore on the 44 in Little League is the number that I wore, and then I got to wear it again in college. So that was kind of, where the 44 came from, but it was, kind of just speaks to the way my dad raised me and the kind of a football guy he was and the John Riggins fan.
So, one quick follow-up. How old
one
were
thing
you
to note, too, about Warren, not to cut you off, James Boyd.
Yeah, I was just asking when he was watching these videos. And again, he said he was 8 watching YouTube videos of John Riggins.
Yeah.
He's 22 now.
I was going to say, I don't know if Max Bone will ever evolve from watching dinosaur videos, but maybe we will, and watching John Riggins at some point. I think one thing, too, James, is like he was a high school athlete, really, more than anything. I mean, yeah, he was kind of projected to be tight end, but that's where I think you see some of his style and the ability for Penn State to utilize him in the variety of ways that they did. And I will say, I know there's a quarterback competition debate certainly here that we'll continue to have over the next few months. I would think Shane Steichen's got to be foaming at the mouth a little bit, imagining a potential backfield and the amount of different ways you could utilize inside the 10-yard line Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor, and Tyler Warren. I mean, you imagine what a backfield could look like with those three and the amount of things you could do with them. Because, again, Warren, as I said in the first hour, this is not a tush-push tight end. We've seen Baltimore do this with Mark Andrews. We see teams sometimes, they bring the tight end in motion, puts his hand under center, boom, try to QB sneak it. Warren averaged 8 yards per carry. 8 yards per carry last year at Penn State. This is a dude taking wildcat snaps and breaking tackles, not just getting 1 yard, 2 yards because he's 6'6" and 260.
Absolutely. You know what I was thinking about? The goal line formations.
Exactly. Inside the 10, goal line, short yardage.
5 yards?
Yeah.
We're getting in the end zone one way or the other. There's too much talent, too much size to not get across the goal line with Tyler Warren being added to the mix. In this scenario, I'm assuming Anthony Richardson will be the guy under center. He gives you, in fairness to him, a lot of options, especially when you get that close down there to scoring. So does that change anything for you?
James, what do you want to see on day 2? 45 overall, the Colts here. Obviously, the 33rd pick will take place to start round 2 coming up tonight. Currently, the Colts 45 and 80. And I bring up what you want to see on day 2 just to remind our audience. If you look at the Ballard era, James, his best players haven't come from day 1. His best players have come from day 2. Darius Leonard, Braden Smith, Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman Jr., Bernard Ryman. These are all day 2 guys. I mean, if you look at day 1, it's a wide range. It's Malik Hooker, it's Quentin Nelson, it's Kwity Paye, it's Anthony Richardson. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody else. But, like, it's a kind of a wide range. Day 2, sure, there's a wide range as well, but he has oftentimes wanted more picks, so we could see a trade back, but it's probably just a reminder of day 2 means a whole lot to every team, but certainly the Colts.
Absolutely. For me, what I would like to see on day 2, 1, bolster the trenches. I would probably lean more towards offensive line, maybe. It depends on the depth. I have to look at the charts again and see who's still available, but I would imagine you bolster your offensive or defensive line, and do you go out and try to get a linebacker as well? I know you can probably, feel confident on day 3 of adding a linebacker that you feel can come in and contribute because you've done it in the past so well. But those are positions that I'm looking at. And then a dream scenario will be, boy, if Travion Henderson is there.
Ooh.
Do you pull the trigger?
Mm-hmm. Tyler Warren and Travion Henderson carry the Big Ten flag.
Am I being too greedy? I'm thinking to myself, like, man, that
Do you know
can
Chris
play.
Ballard?
Talking about Shane Steichen, or you talking about Quentin Nelson have to walk in sideways on doors. Shane Steichen would have to if that was the pick, I think.
Yeah.
Jeez, Mark, I was nervous where you were going with that.
I'm just saying.
As soon as you opened your mouth, I had a feeling that's where you were going.
I'm just saying, you get Warren and Henderson. That's a solid one, too.
There's no way, right?
No.
There are some teams ahead of him that I think are going to go
there's
after
no way.
Henderson.
That's just me
Didn't
being
Scotty have the stat yesterday? The Colts are the only team to have not taken an offensive lineman in round 1 or 2 in the last 6 drafts.
Isn't that crazy?
That's wild when you think of Ballard's emphasis on the trenches.
Yeah.
Now, again, I don't act like the offensive line's been this like massively glaring issue. I'm not saying that to like rip Ballard, but it is interesting.
Yeah, in fairness to them, they found guys that have stayed and, been stalwarts for their offensive line.
Ryman was a round 3 pick, so, just by 1 round.
Yeah, but I'm saying some of your earlier round picks, Quentin Nelson has been there for a long time now. Even though he's still a young player, he's been there, going on 8 years? Ryan Kelly was there for a long time. So, again, they've drafted well when it comes to the offensive line, but, yeah, that stat is a bit surprising to me. And I'm not so sure that they will break that trend tonight. Because if you think you have the depth to perhaps go find a guard, a starting caliber right guard, at least somebody that will compete for a starting job on day 3, does that position you to maybe go after the sexier pick or something like that? Because as we always say, I don't think anybody ever really loves when an offensive lineman is drafted, unless your quarterback gets crushed like last year's Killer Williams did in Chicago. Then everyone's like, yes, we need people that block.
Tyler Warren obviously takes up a starting job. I would say right now as I sit here, James, on Friday morning of day 2 of the draft, the 2 starting jobs that are still pretty open in my eyes are right guard and then I'd say another linebacker. I guess you go with Jalen Carlisle, but still, when you go to a third linebacker, who's your starter there? And then, of course, defensive line. It might not be a starting job that's wide open, but you lost 1,500 snaps in your D-line. We've talked about it. Buckner and Stewart are north of the age of 30, and, there's no defensive end under contract after 2025. We've thrown all these at you for the last couple of months. So I would say I'd be stunned if one of the 2 picks, and again, I'm probably expecting more. I'm probably expecting a trade back. But let's just say it's only 2 picks. I would think 1 will certainly be the trenches. Probably set the over-under at 1.5, frankly, in the trenches. And then the question I would have was, does linebacker sneak in there? I still think running back, you wait till day 3. And then do you start talking about the old QB?
That could get interesting.
And I'm not saying Shedeur Sanders. He's still on the board. But
Lord have mercy. He was there on day 3.
He's tearing that made-up draft room that he built.
They might be telling me, James, we don't care about anything you have to write. You're on this.
That built draft room he had made will be burned to the ground.
Top 30 visits with Tyler Shuck and Quinn Ewers. Is that right for the Colts?
I know Quinn Ewers for sure. I have to check on Tyler Shuck, who, again, I will.
That name makes no sense. There's no way that's how it's pronounced.
How is your name pronounced like that? How?
Yeah, spelled Shough. Is that right?
It should be show, like dough.
Yeah, I know.
But Nevertheless,
it's like Coach K. What does this sound like? Doesn't look like Krzyzewski, I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
Didn't have Tyler Shuck and Coach K being compared to each other here on this Friday morning. But
yes, by the way, he did have a top 30 visit with the Colts. It looks like the Jets and Pittsburgh Steelers as well.
And Tyler Warren had a top 30 visit with the Colts.
His first one, he said.
So that just, again, if and when does quarterback come off the board? I largely think we're looking at trenches and linebacker if I can continue to positional value the draft so far, 1-for-1 on that front of it. But do you see quarterback? Do you see running back? And, I mean, corner did drop a little bit last night, Will Johnson being the poster child of it.
Yes, and I believe Adam Schefter reported that he's got a knee issue that teams are kind of hesitant about. So for Colts fans who are like, man, go get this guy on day 2, I'm not so sure that they will do that because obviously you don't want to draft a player who might have some injury concerns.
Yeah, I mean, Colts and injuries at corner certainly go hand in hand.
Good point,
so,
yeah.
Do you guys have a quarterback that, sticks out above this group that you're like, okay, if the Colts go after him, I'd be fine with that? Or you're kind of like, if you're throwing a dart against the wall, I guess take that guy.
Part of me is like, I don't think he'll make it to day 3, but Will Howard,
yeah,
Ohio
I know
State.
a lot of people really.
I'm like,
Will
man,
Howard.
if you get to round 3 and he's still there.
You showed me a lot in that national title game, especially with his legs too.
Yeah, like he kind of fits the modern quarterback. He's got good size. He doesn't have great, super crazy athleticism. I don't want to say great. He has great athleticism, but maybe not to the level of the players we've seen. At the highest level of the sport, Lamar Jackson, Anthony Richardson. I know he isn't the greatest quarterback player, but athlete-wise, he's a freak. He's somebody that kind of entices me, but I also think that, again, 3rd round probably too early to think about going quarterbacks. Maybe like Riley Leonard, 5th round.
Yeah.
Notre Dame, dual threat guy, tough guy, leadership qualities. Could he be your QB3, future backup? I don't know, man.
I know. I just look at it and I'm just like, I just don't that guy is just not going to get reps though, is the thing. And so I'm like, do you really want to waste a draft pick on a guy that you might not, is not going to get a good chunk of any kind of development, or would you rather just get an undrafted dude and just put him in the room and let's see what happens?
It's kind of why I've been more in the round 5 or 6 camp because, Mark, to answer your question, you can't give this guy reps. I mean, Richardson and Jones need too many of them.
Could you imagine them getting a third of the reps?
So that's where I just calling a quarterback a wasted draft pick is unfair, but it would feel a bit like that. Having said that, if you believe Anthony Richardson's going to get hurt again, which I know sounds harsh, but you can't ignore that question, then all of a sudden, that third quarterback becomes Daniel Jones's backup.
Yeah.
So that third quarterback could be one play away from, and Daniel Jones doesn't have a clean injury history throughout his
No, I believe he's missed
NFL
at
career.
least 2 games due to injury in 4 of his 6 seasons. So he's missed 17 games due to injury, just like Anthony Richardson, but across 6 seasons. So not as much. But spot starts, which I think you're referencing, Kevin, you might want to have somebody in the tuck ready to go.
Sam Ehlinger was your backup for quite a few games over the last 2 years, and of course he's no longer here. I mean, I went Curtis Rourke in round 6 in my mock draft, and to me, it's not IU bias. It's more of I feel like I know what I'm getting with Rourke. Like Riley Leonard is kind of projected in the same range. No. There's too much volatility there. Like you need to give Riley Leonard reps. I don't feel like I need to give Curtis Rourke that many reps, if that makes sense.
Yeah. He's a traditional guy, works off timing, accuracy.
Yeah.
And again, can you just keep us afloat for a week or 2?
And keep us afloat, and it's more like you're underwater for 8 seconds and you come up and you're like, one of those is probably the better way to describe what the third quarterback looks like. I feel like I'm watching Rosie at swim lessons as TJ McConnell's kid just swims right by her every time.
Get the net! She's going under!
Coming up, we had Ross Tucker on the show a few weeks back, and he was, to say giddy about Tyler Warren would be an understatement. We'll play that clip coming up for you here in a bit. Mark Dykton, let's cue it up. We'll get some Chris Ballard audio here in just a second on the type of player Tyler Warren is. But, James, let's start up in Milwaukee tonight. Again, 5.5-point underdog. Pacers and Bucks in this one. 8 o'clock tip for those that have followed our TV dilemmas here throughout the playoffs. Our YouTube TVers, I think you're okay tonight because it's ESPNU opposite FanDuel. And if I'm not mistaken, I think ESPNU is good to go on YouTube TV,
Yes,
whereas NBA TV the other night was blacked out. So that's a confirmation, Mark?
I mean, I'm pretty sure. I don't.
You're not dialing up ESPNU very often?
Not very often, no.
You're not watching Notre Dame and Elon, where that Elon kid hit a bunch of threes
Not
and now
watching
he's committed to
lacrosse
IU?
or anything like that, the SEC lacrosse or anything.
So I think you're okay. 8 o'clock tip, reminder, game
I'll be
4.
pissed if we're not. I will live tweet that we are not good if that happens.
Oh, boy. Turn on my Mark Dykton notifications after that.
You better not have me muted.
9:30 on Sunday night, as wild as that sounds, that will be game 4. James Boyd, your overall thoughts on tonight?
Whatever you have to do to contain Damian Lillard, make sure that he does not get going. And I mean, obviously, if he has 20 points on 23 shots, fine. But, you don't want him to get on a heater early and give them some confidence.
Yeah, I think overall for me with Lillard, is he about to get stronger or is he about to get weaker?
It's a great question.
Like, that's kind of an unknown I have with Lillard.
We've never seen what he's gone through ever.
And if you watch game 2, he got weaker.
Yeah.
As the game moved, I was stunned he played 37 minutes. I thought he was great in the first half and really did little in the second half. So the Andrew Nembhard assignment certainly will be on the future Hall of Famer. Again, Chris Ballard's comments last night, he called it the easiest pick he's made in pulling a name off the board since Quentin Nelson. Style-wise, I think you'll like the answer the Colts GM used on the Penn State tight end.
He can do a lot now. I mean, he can play multiple spots. He's got the quarterback background, so he can play in the backfield. He's a great 50-50 ball catcher. He's after the catch, he's violent after the catch. I mean, he brings an element of toughness that I thought, we needed to add offensively.
Like my brother-in-law got thrown out of a bar at my bachelor party. I won't say which brother-in-law it was. That is how I would describe Tyler Warren at times in the college game.
Do you think he just throws guys off him and just says, excuse me or thank you?
Dude, I'll be honest with you, man. That Notre Dame game, he threw a couple Notre Dame defenders down that I literally was like, wait a minute. That is not – no. Did we sub in some freshmen? That's not Xavier Watts. That's not Jaden Osbury. I was stunned by it. And I told you, I cheered so loud when Penn State would snap the football and not give the ball to Tyler Warren. The Notre Dame-Penn State game, if I could for one more second here, Penn State didn't have a wideout catch a ball the entire game. That's how much Tyler Warren means to them. They had good running backs. They didn't have a receiver catch a ball the entire game. Probably why they lost. But Tyler Warren means that much. Biggest NFL draft item around the horn. Mark Dykton, will begin with you. Non-Colts related. If you want to go with your Bears, feel free.
No, it's got to be the Jaguars moving up to get Travis Hunter. I thought that was a bold move. They gave up a boatload of picks, including next year's first-round pick, which could be a pretty high one. But that was a pretty bold move. So I was like, wow, Titans with Cam Ward. Jaguars with Travis Hunter. That's going to be a fun AFC South. AFC South might get some more primetime looks all of a sudden.
Oh, don't do that to me. Look, I know Colts fans, you want the team to be better, but when the team's kind of middling, those 1 p.m. kickoffs are lovely.
Well, we now know the NFL schedule, at least. That was quite the scene last night when they announced that Wednesday, May 14th. James, non-Colts division?
I would say the Giants trading back up into the first round to take Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss and Shadur Sanders still sliding.
I would also say that the Steelers.
Or is he sliding?
The Steelers passing up on a quarterback as well, because people are like, if they don't take a quarterback here, they don't have one for a while, and they didn't take one. So is the Aaron Rodgers thing still in play? Can we be done with this, please?
It's very weird to me.
Gosh, amen to that. You guys probably covered the two big ones. I don't know. The Bengals did take a defensive end. I mean, that is something that, does that mean anything for Trey Hendrickson? And I thought it was interesting Houston traded out around 1.
Yeah.
I think Houston needs O-line and wide receiver help. They will pick here early on day 2, but that was something that caught my eye. NBA last night, the Grizzlies, unbelievable. They blow the biggest halftime lead in NBA playoff history. Ja Morant injured after 16 minutes. Thunder go up 3-0, I should say. The Knicks win on the road at Detroit. Back and forth game. The Knicks now go up 2-1 after losing game 2. And the Clippers all over the Nuggets in game 3. They are up 2-1. Other couple items, Nick Dorn, 6'7" shooter from Elon, commits to Darren DeVries. Once again, a mid-major skilled shooter in Bloomington. They did add a big guy, Sam Alexis, played very sparingly for Florida last year, did injure his ankle late in the season, so wasn't really a part of that tournament run. A little bit on the light side if you're kind of projecting him in the front court, but nonetheless, they need some rebounding, some rim protection. Alexis showed that in some limited minutes there. And the oval test wrapping up at IMS yesterday. Kyle Larson kissing the wall. He was fine. Takuma Sato, much more of a hit on the wall. He was fine as well. But certainly those are probably the two big news items from yesterday. We'll get confirmation Pacers YouTube TV wise and continue to dissect the NFL draft. It is the Fan Morning Show on a Friday, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Well, it's a packed house in the YouTube chat. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I know the draft gets people to feel some things. I'm curious, when Roger Goodell got up there.
Get you to feel some things.
Does it not? Did you see people react to Tyler Warren? Mark,
it certainly made people feel some things.
If you did a poll right now, do you like the pick or not? You'd literally have 95% of Colts fans say yes. That never happens.
Yeah.
Colts fans this is the happiest Colts fans have been since when?
The pick that everyone wanted for months actually happened.
Mm-hmm. This is the happiest Colts fans have been since Andrew Luck and the Colts beat the Texans in the playoffs. Am I wrong on that?
I haven't been here that long, so you got to give me a couple of items.
Jonathan
or
Taylor
moments.
broke in the open field against the Patriots. Like, I'm trying to think of legitimately the last time Colts fans have been this universally happy.
Yeah.
I'm putting out the poll to see if we can get 95%.
Well, you're going to get a couple idiots that'll be,
What do you mean? They're allowed. They're entitled to their opinion.
They're
they're
gonna
say,
then not when I have a real poll.
They're going to say no. Yeah, it's like the overrated poll, Tyrese Halliburton.
I feel like you can put do you like money, and you wouldn't get 100% or 95.
Certainly not in our country. How about this from Kevin? He emails me
Go
this,
across the hall with
James.
that kind of talk.
I guess Kevin is going a little devil's advocate. Can Tyler Warren break tackles and generate yards after catch the way he did at Penn State at the next level?
I'm going to say at a lower rate.
And can he do that for 17 games without getting injured? He follows up on.
I think he can do that without getting injured. I don't think he's had any injury concerns in the past, from what I understand.
Yeah, he was very durable at Penn State.
Yeah, can he, break tackles like he was doing in college? Most likely not. But can he just give you a little bit more elements than you've had? I would say yes. And we'll let the tape kind of speak for itself after a year. But there's a reason why a lot of teams, not just the Colts, were high on this guy.
We'll play that Chris Ballard clip here in a few minutes on why he felt like the Bears went Colston Loveland at 10 versus Tyler Warren at 10. I thought it was actually an interesting answer from Ballard on that front.
You still ain't made it to Chicago. That's what my grandma says, Chicago.
I'm assuming those are your weekend plans.
Yeah, I was like, can I mega bus it up there for the Ryan Poles press conference here? Yeah, I mean, if you're, again, this is uber nitpicking on Warren, but I would describe him more as he creates his yards after catch as a bully, not a runner. I mean, it's not like he's slow, but he's not, I don't think he'd test 4.4 in the 40-yard dash in the combine. Or his pro day.
Here's one from Dane Brugler in his analysis. Only 5.9% of the targets that Tyler Warren had over the past 2 seasons came 20 yards or more down the field. So a lot of his bigger catches and receptions are him catching the ball within about 10 yards and making a move and getting up the field.
I like more for the Colts. Let me, I am, so this is the 7 o'clock hour. The Colts, and this is the wide receiver position as well, the Colts don't have enough individual creators after the catch.
Yeah.
And he is one of them. And did it at an extraordinarily high level in college. Alec Pierce can take the top off of defense. Richardson, naturally, if you want to play the Richardson's a starter game, he's a great deep ball thrower. I'm not worried about that aspect of it. Frankly, I think that Dane Brugler stat, I mean, I love Dane, but that is we are really nitpicking here. I mean, how many tight ends are even targeted 20-plus yards down the field?
But again, I mean, if we're going to find something,
I know.
Tug on Superman's cape a little bit.
Yeah, but I would rather say give me a high percentage throw. And I know with Anthony Richardson, nothing feels very high percentage.
Right.
But, James, I'd rather say throw the 6-yard dump over the middle to Tyler Warren. You're the safety for the Jags. You come up, try and tackle 6'6", 260. He throws you on the ground, and now 6 becomes 16. Whereas if you throw the 16-yard ball in the air, now you got to throw it with another level through another level of the defense. Now it's another window. That's riskier. So, frankly, I like that.
And honestly, the way I look at it too, Kevin, is if all he does is catch 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, or catch 2nd and 4, turns it into an 8-yard game, whatever. If that is his ceiling, that is still better than what you've had. And if he does that for the next 7, 8 years, you got a really good player. Because you need somebody to keep the chains moving. And I think he kind of marries to what Shane Steichen repeatedly said this past Tuesday. We want our quarterback to be able to move the ball consistently And if Tyler Warren can consistently give you an option over the middle that keeps the chains moving, you'll take that every day, even without perhaps the same amount of yards after the catch.
29 votes in, 96.6% like it.
So far, so good. No idiots, according to KB.
So now you want to go back to the poll being on your side.
I guess the idiots are still asleep.
He's a politician.
Yep. The idiots are still asleep.
This is true. I've told you about my basketball runs. Older James has learned never go play basketball at 6 p.m., always 6 a.m. The idiots are still asleep.
Boy, I think I said to you yesterday that you'll never say something smarter on the show. I think that might be honestly the smartest thing you've ever said.
It's a fact.
The audible gasp when Roger Goodell said Tyler at pick 12.
My heart skipped a beat.
It's funny, like,
boy,
James, you and I watched the draft on social media before we watched on the TV.
Yeah.
But the TV is in the background. And for those that aren't addicted to social media like we have to be,
post notifications and all that,
you hear, when you heard that Tyler, and Goodell just naturally, his cadence just kind of paused before he said Booker, the offensive guard out of Alabama. It was unbelievable to see several Colts fans reach out and be like, oh my gosh, I thought that was Warren.
And then part of me is like, that's a bit of the experience that I miss. Because being in media, it's like I have notifications on for every reporter and every outlet because I want to, obviously just get the news as quick as possible so I can react to it and get my stuff done. But as a fan, I got to enjoy the suspense a little bit. Or maybe you don't enjoy it because you're so nervous that, oh, my gosh, Tyler Warren's gone.
Well, it's funny. I brought this up during March Madness. I remember the days when my brother and I we'd get multiple TVs and laptops up in our family room and have the other games streaming on those respective devices, and we would put Post-it notes on the score log. So at the top of the screen, they would have the box score, the mini box score of the other games.
Yep.
And that box score would update quicker than the laptop streaming the game. So we would put Post-it notes up on those to try and make sure that we weren't spoiled.
Well, you know what I'll do tonight? Well, obviously I will be focused on the draft, but when I have the YouTube TV stream up for the Pacers-Bucks game, I almost want to mute Tony and Dustin DePirac because their tweets come in a minute or two before the play happens, and I'm like, God dang it, I didn't even know if this was going to happen.
I'm trying to do math tonight. 7 minutes in round 2, 5 minutes in round 3. Those are the pick minutes here. Draft starts at 7 o'clock. Is that right tonight?
Yes.
Yes. 7:30. I always forget.
7.
Man, so we could get, if he stays at 45, and boy, that's a kiss of death, no chance. If he stays at 45, could we get that pick before tip? 8 o'clock tip in Milwaukee. If we got that pick, could maybe work a little bit, maybe miss the first 5 minutes of the game, and maybe the second pick could come at halftime.
I would love that. And again, you know what? Lock it in, okay?
Because last year, this is the anniversary of Nembhard's shot.
Yes, that was crazy.
This is the anniversary of, right? No, Halliburton floater.
Yes, on Patrick Beverly. By the way.
Halliburton floater.
This
is the anniversary of the, and that was what, 1 overtime or 2?
I don't think was it an overtime game. I think it might have been just the end.
It not?
Just the game winner. I have to go back and
I felt like I remember them trading back before taking A.D. Mitchell. I remember them trading back and us being happy because then we could watch more of it. And then I think we were rooting for overtime again.
Maybe, but either way, I was locked into the game.
All right, coming up on the other side, why did Chris Ballard feel like Colston Loveland went 10 overall? We'll play that audio for you next. Happiest Colts fans have been in years. Tyler Warren, the pick at number 14 overall so far. Mark Dykton, our poll reads what?
Let me see. Last I checked, it was looking pretty good. Let me find it real quick.
And very
Do you have
simple.
it handy?
Very simple poll from Mark.
Well, yeah. You said you just wanted me to say the most basic things. I said, do you like the selection of Tyler Warren?
It is 97%, right?
96.6%. Yes, there's 3.4% that are the haters and idiots, as Kevin Bone described them.
I don't know if I said haters. I think I just said idiots. If you could quote
I'd
me
rather be a
accurately.
hater than an idiot, quite honestly.
That. Colston Loveland went 10 overall, and that was certainly a surprise based off the mock drafts in the fact that Loveland went 10, Warren went 14. I think we had seen a lot of the reverse of that.
Yes.
Warren going 14. By the way, shout out to Peter Schrager. He had the Colts trading up to 10 to take Loveland.
Yeah.
In his mock draft there, which, if you listen to Chris Ballard, he felt like once they got to 10 and he saw both the tight ends there, he felt like one of them would get to 14.
Yeah. He dismissed the idea of trading up very quickly.
And there's been in years past where he has admitted they have thought about trading up. Asking Ballard, hey, were you surprised Loveland went 10 overall? Not a huge expansive answer here, but I think you will hear a little bit of Chicago's thinking behind taking Loveland over Warren.
Were you surprised Loveland went before him?
Flavor, I mean, that's a better question for Ryan in Chicago than me. Guessing they got Cole Kmet. Probably think, Loveland's probably a better fit in combination with Cole Kmet. That'd be my guess, but you need to call Ryan and ask him that.
Yeah, again, Ryan Poles, who Ballard's referencing there, the Bears GM, and he is spot on. Listening to Ryan Poles last night, mentioned that Cole Kmet, for those unfamiliar, the Notre Dame tight end, plays for the Bears. I think some people have actually said Tyler Warren could be a little bit like Cole Kmet, or have made a similar comp just stylistically to those two guys. And Poles said last night when they get to 12 personnel, 2 tight ends on the field, they feel like Loveland, think more receiver, a little bit of a slender guy, maybe a little bit more of a speed guy. They feel like he complements Cole Kmet. Said they had a ton of debates about Loveland or Warren, but they felt like better fit with their roster, pairs well with Cole Kmet.
Yes, and for the Colts' roster, perhaps Tyler Warren better pairs with what you need as far as an inline, tight end, someone who can play.
Do you think they would have gone, had the Colts picked at 10, you think they would have gone Warren there, or you think they would have gone Loveland?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'll flip it back to you because we had someone in the YouTube chat who was saying, I don't know if this is accurate, but were you a little bit higher on Loveland than Warren? Or
I don't know about that. I would say this. I think it's a lot closer, and obviously we saw it last night play out. I thought people acting like there was this massive gap between the two were not looking at the total picture.
Yeah.
I think I said to you a lot this week, James, of like, I really don't think he's this just abomination of a blocker that people somehow labeled him to be throughout the draft process. I thought he could have been and will be a fine blocker. He's certainly younger than Warren.
Yeah.
And also the shoulder injury, I think, impacted some things. And plus, Michigan had a quarterback that looked like me. So I think you got to factor that in there as well. I again, continue to say I think it would have been very interesting who the Colts would have picked had both been on the board.
Yeah, for sure. But even with that in mind, I still believe that they got a guy who can immediately help you.
Oh, sure. I mean, Warren's a stud. I mean, it's not like, again, this is,
I'm saying that because
do I want that chocolate chip cookie or that chocolate chip cookie? I mean,
I just think that to continue the thought a bit, perhaps he doesn't have as much upside as Loveland because he's an older prospect, but there's plenty of upside there. And then again, if his baseline is that he goes out there and gets you, a lot of this has to do with quarterback play, but 500 yards and 4 or 5 touchdowns a year, like that's fine. Like you need that. That's someone that you just haven't had consistently since Jack Doyle. And for those who didn't listen in the first hour, I threw some stats out there. The last tight end with 40 catches in a season for the Colts, Jack Doyle, 2019. Last tight end with 400 receiving yards in a single season, Jack Doyle, 2019. Last year, who led the Colts in tight end catches, Kevin?
Kylan Granson.
How many?
14.
How many games were there in the season?
There are 17.
I mean, so you're
Let's add one more to that, James. Kylan Granson led the Colts tight ends with 14 catches all of last season.
All of last season.
Tyler Warren had 17 catches in one game last year. If Colts fans, if you want to foam at the mouth, it was a Saturday afternoon, 3:30 game at USC. I remember watching it. Tyler Warren at USC.
Balled out.
You'll salivate. You'll salivate. Chris Ballard called it, I believe, the best offensive game in college football last season.
Yes, he said that.
Not sure if Ashton Genty has a word or two about that, but nonetheless, it was an absolutely incredible performance from Warren. And without that, they don't make the playoff.
Oh, no, not at all. And then to kind of piggyback off that
they
thought.
won in overtime.
Yes, 33-30 in overtime, because I went and looked up the score again because Michael Pittman Jr. was like, draft this guy, more or less. He was like, he looks pretty good. He carded up my Trojans, and now they're teammates. But getting back to Ballard, he also said that Warren has the best hands of anybody in this draft class, which you can have debates about that, but it isn't like a super outlandish take to me. I know he's bullish on his pick, and any player, and picked in the first round, you probably are a little bit bullish on them. But if you go back and watch his tape and you look at, again, 3 drops, and he's got, a bunch of targets, 104 catches, the guy pretty much catches everything in his vicinity, and he does make a lot of contested catches.
Yeah, that is something that stood out to me of like, okay, maybe he's not like the greatest separator in the world, but when you throw the 50-50 to him, oftentimes it was 80-20, 90-10.
Yeah.
And that's
I can already hear Colts fans saying, like, he better, make contested catches because some of them will be contested because the ball's way up here or way out there. So we'll see.
No, they're not wrong about that. Plenty more to get to. 9 o'clock hour on this draft pick. Ross Tucker, NFL analyst, to call him a fan of Tyler Warren would be an understatement. We'll play that audio upcoming for you and get you set for Game 3 tonight inside of Pfizer Forum up there in Milwaukee. It is the Fan Morning Show, rounding out the week right here. Kevin Bowe and James Boyd. Mark Dykton.
This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
With the 14th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Indianapolis Colts select Tyler Warren, tight end, Penn State.
Well, they had to be doing a dance in their draft room. This could not have fallen better for the Colts.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so Tyler Warren, my 7th overall prospect and the number 1 tight end prospect on my board.
There is a position in football. He lined up at that position on offense.
This feels almost like need, person, fit, go. This one feels
value.
like.
He's the best player
He's a
available.
terrific player, and Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones, they need this pass-catching tight end.
Tyler. Hello. Hey, Chris Ballard with the Indianapolis Colts, man. We're going to pick you right here. Welcome to Indy.
You're a hell of a player, man. You're going to bring great toughness to our team, man, and playmaking ability. We can't wait to get you here.
I think that, it's important kind of in general as a football player to be able to be on the field as much as you can, help the team out as much as you can. And as a tight end, it helps you kind of the whole offense, being able to block and be a threat in the passing game, opens up, everybody else in the offense and kind of just a scheme in general. So I think that is a lot of, really important for a tight end to be able to be on the field for all 3 downs.
How you like me now? How you like me now? How you like me now?
Great work, Mark Dykton, on that entry. In a world where we probably can't agree on how crispy our bacon should be or if we should count up or down when Giannis is at the foul line, seems like we all can agree that Tyler Warren to the Colts made a whole lot of sense. And that was the pick at number 14 last night.
Not to go too off on a tangent, but bacon that's not crispy, is it bacon? Is it real bacon?
On the crispy meter, I want a damn crispy. I don't like limp bacon. I don't. When you order the Kevin Bowen burger today from Cluster Truck, excellent burger, by the way. I believe both of you actually agreed with that.
I'm a known hater, but I can't hate.
You get 2 crispy pieces of bacon up top and chopped bacon underneath the patties.
Yeah.
That's like having Tyler Warren fall to 14, folks.
I gave you my Mel Kiper grade. I said that's an A+.
Yeah.
You did.
Great burger, great cheese. What's not to like? Great whiff, great taste.
Kuiper, does he have one more Shedeur Sanders rant in him?
Oh, my gosh.
Boy, the glazing of Shedeur Sanders yesterday points. I was like, good God almighty.
From Will Levis and
Look
Shedeur
at Mark
Sanders.
using Gen X slang here on the radio.
These kids, my kids come home and they're like, oh, this is, I'm like, all right. I'll try to be cool, Dad.
I like it. I respect it.
The 8-year-old bringing up glazing from the playground.
I know. Where did you learn that at?
At school. Again, Tyler Warren at 14 overall. I know we've talked a lot about it today, James, but again, for our audience that has missed our show through the first couple of hours, I think what truly stands out to me about Warren was just the versatility at Penn State, his ability to put up not only insane numbers, but do it in multiple ways. 8 yards per carry. Again, per carry. So like,
and he had 26 of them. This wasn't like, he had 3 carries.
And he didn't bust one for 90 and then it skews everything else.
Yeah, but he definitely has some versatility.
A dynamic player with the ball in his hands. Again, think bullier more than like outrun you. I mean, he's, I don't want to go all the way here with a Gronk comp, but it's that type of I'll throw you out of the club more than, I'll just beat you, in a foot race here. And I think Shane Steichen's got to be foaming at the mouth a little bit in the different ways you can utilize him. You imagine inside the 10-yard line, a backfield of him, Jonathan Taylor, and Anthony Richardson. So a lot of different things, a lot of different wrinkles you can do off of that. And I would just add this too. I think yards after catch has been such an issue for this team from an individual standpoint. They have not had enough guys that individually can say, give me the ball, let me create. I'm going to turn a 6-yard simple pass into 16. It's risky when you have to throw the ball down the field to create chunk plays. It's a lot less risky when you can throw a high percentage ball and that player can do the rest. And in college, Warren for a tight end was exceptional at that.
3 drops on 135 targets last season.
That's pretty wild.
That is insane. I mean, my goodness. And he also kind of had to wait his turn at Penn State. He was a good player in 2023, a dominant player in 2024. I do want to pick your brain on this, Kevin. Your thoughts on Chris Ballard getting on the soapbox and saying, this guy stayed, he competed, we need more of that in college football. He's a perfect example of that. I did kind of bait him with the question, but your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of Ballard's MO. You know, he's.
Should we just pencil him in for like a draft day?
Right, obviously the CJ Stroud one a couple years ago. I mean, sure, there's some validity to it. I mean, I do think that, Tyler Warren, if you look back at the previous season, James, he had pretty good touchdown numbers, but not a lot of catch yard numbers there.
And he was behind when he arrived at Penn State. He was behind 4 future NFL tight ends.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the guy that his junior year played a lot above him, but. Warren he's a bit of a throwback from a personality standpoint. This is a dude that you're not going to see on social media. This is a dude that you're not going to hear these eye-popping or ear-raising quotes necessarily from him. His dad was a safety growing up and wanted him to run like John Riggins. I mean, if you look at the hair, it's some throwback mullety flowing from the helmet. I mean, he's just... I saw people last night mention Jeremy Shockey. I see it with the look, but maybe not with the flair. He plays.
Jeremy Shockey was like tatted up.
Right. and was loud and was boisterous. Like Warren, it's funny. Warren's play on the field is loud and boisterous.
Yes.
Play off the field, though, is not that.
Did you see his draft party reaction?
Oh, man. I hope Grandpa's doing okay today. Grandpa didn't react.
They
for
were
about
so
45
measured.
seconds.
I'm like, man, my family. I'm thinking back to when we went on prom. We had everyone that was like partly related to us at our house for prom. And I'm like, this isn't even an accomplishment. We're just wasting money doing this thing for pictures so my mom can be happy. Whereas you are literally going to make a ton of money, living your dream. And he's just like, oh, yeah, happy to be here. Even the phone call. I believe I followed up at the end of the night, and I'm glad I got to ask him this. I was like, are you going to celebrate after this? He was like, yeah, when I get off this call, I'll probably let some of that out. I'm like, are you sure? I feel like he was gonna crack a beer and go watch the moon or something. Like he's just a very chill guy.
Yeah, we got Little 500 this weekend in Bloomington. By the way, 14 of 18 showed up.
Look at that
yesterday. 14 of 18.
The overhit.
That's one for our younger generation.
Were the 4 that didn't show up? Were they honest? Did they just tell you up front?
No,
I would tell my
none
teachers
of them told me anything, and I guarantee you they all were hungover.
Fair enough, but I would usually tell my teachers I ain't gonna be here like Magic Johnson did.
I could have picked the 4 that honestly weren't gonna be there. Let's just, for those that missed it, the Tyler Warren draft party looked like a Notre Dame party the night before finals. Just a bunch. I mean, it was one of the more sorrier atmospheres. I think ESPN was like, "Wait, is this it?"
I thought
should
maybe
we cut
it was
away to one more? Is Travis Hunter and Tyler Booker running to see Roger Goodell?
I thought at first, how when they do the March Madness Selection Sunday, they do the live camera shot and there's delayed reaction.
Yeah,
I thought it was that.
I thought it was waiting. A glitch or something. Because I'm
I
like,
told you
what
guys earlier in the show, I thought at one point that they had paused the draft in the Warren household at pick 9.
You know what that is, though? That is supreme confidence. That is the man who knew he was going in the first round, no need for all the extra stuff, and he certainly provides the extra stuff on the field because, again, the tape speaks for itself, and he is someone who I believe can certainly be a difference maker immediately for this team that has lacked very much at tight end.
I got a couple more overall tight end. Do you take those guys in round 1 thoughts here? But I want to make sure we get to this Ross Tucker audio. For those that missed it, Ross Tucker joined us a couple weeks ago, NFL analyst, and he, to say was and is a fan of Tyler Warren would be an understatement.
Well, guess what? You came to the right guy because I live in central Pennsylvania. I live in Hershey, an hour from Penn State. So I actually used to do some Penn State shows around here, like radio shows. So I would watch their high school recruits and then break them down. I love Tyler Warren. Love. First of all, he's from Mechanicsville, Virginia. If you're from a town that sounds like that, that's the Mechanicsville, okay? Guys, he was their quarterback, all right? So he's throwing the ball. He's running all over the place, running people over. Then they would get – you guys got to find these highlights. They would get down near, the red zone. They would bring the backup quarterback in and put Tyler wide receiver, ex-receiver, and just throw him a fade ball, and he would just head tap on these poor cornerbacks that were trying to cover him. And then watching him at Penn State, it's so funny because I just reposted this thing on Twitter, X, whatever you guys call it, at Ross Tucker NFL. He wears 44 because his dad would show him tape of John Riggins and say, son, that's how I want you to run with the ball. I mean, are you kidding me? This guy, John Riggins, like, I couldn't love this guy more. I've actually met him a couple times in person. You know, a lot of the words I want to use for him, I'm not even sure you're allowed to say on the radio, but he's a bad you-know-what. I think, first of all, he's definitely a better blocker than Loveland, definitely. He's also definitely better after the catch. And I actually think he's got more there as a blocker because he wants to do it. I mean, his dad gave him the number after John Riggins. He wants to physically punish people. And what he does with the ball in his hands after the catch, I'm picturing a lot of RPOs in Steichen's system, and I'm picturing Daniel Jones or maybe Richardson, you know, throwing those quick slants to Tyler Warren and then him breaking that first tackle and having the flowing locks in the middle of the field. I mean, I am not the Colston Loveland guy. Colston Loveland is a nice player, good route runner, good receiver. I think he'd be a fine pick, but that's not who I would pick. And to be honest with you, knowing Chris Ballard a little bit, that's not who I think he'll pick either.
Boom. I mean, he laid it all out there. Mechanicsville. That's very fitting.
So fitting.
I laugh every time I think about it. I'm like, does that ever not fit him? He's got the mullet thing going. He's got the hat on, which I believe he could probably swap out for a trucker hat or something like that eventually. I just imagine him pulling up, you know, to the facility or to camp with his big truck or something like that. He seems like a very low-maintenance guy.
I said glazing for Mel Kiper's Shador Sanders. That was glazing of Tyler Warren right there.
Indeed it was. Yeah, hope Rosie and Max find someone they love in their life as much as Ross Tucker loves Tyler Warren. You know, one thing I thought was a bit of a misconception around the Colts leading into the draft is, you know, I heard some of this of like, hey, the Colts tight end problem is more of an Anthony Richardson issue. Let's not act like Joe Flacco and the tight ends had some roaring success this past year. You look at it, tight ends average like 3 catches a game with Flacco. So it's not like this is purely a Richardson issue. And, you know, in an ideal world, could you be like some other teams around the league and draft a tight end in round 2 or 3 or later rounds and they turn into something? Sure. But I think it's an absolute misnomer to act like tight end is not a position that has grown to really, really matter. I mean, you look at the last 4 teams last year in the playoffs, James, Travis Kelce, Dalton Kincaid, Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert. You look at the year prior, it's Kelce, it's Mark Andrews, Sam Laporta, George Kittle. I mean, we're talking about stud, Pro Bowl, All-Pro, Hall of Fame tight ends in the final 4 teams of these playoffs. And I like the Colts wideouts. I don't know if I love. I don't know if you lose a ton of sleep when you're preparing for the Colts wideouts. So further bolstering the pass-catching group, you're too blah there. You're too, specifically tight end, you're too average. You're too serviceable. You're too just another guy. This is an attempt at not being that, creating some stress, creating some sleepless nights for an opposing defensive coordinator.
I feel like with Tyler Warren, I'm going to be similar to how I view a lot of training camp. It's like when he catches the ball over the middle and they blow a whistle and say he's downed or whatever, I'm definitely going to be instigating with the defensive backs and the linebackers to say, would you really have gotten him? I know he probably won't play that game too much because it doesn't seem like a talker or a trash talker or whatever, but I'm sure Zaire Franklin and others will have thoughts, and we won't really to be able to fully evaluate him until it's real football. Because that's what he plays. Like, this isn't some super finesse guy. Like, he gets the ball, he puts pain into the other person. And again, the word that keeps popping up when you hear about him as a blocker and even as a runner after the catch, it's violence. And that's what football is. It's controlled violence. And so I would expect that to continue at the next level. But I feel like I'm just begging for them to basically, you know, get the pads on. And I know that won't happen for a long time because training camp rules, regulations, but man, when we're out there in Westfield, I'm going to be thinking like a lot of question marks. Take one of my little notes. I always put like, is that a broken tackle? Is it not? Like, I'll be debating a couple of them for sure.
How about a pair of tickets to the Sancio Grand Prix coming up 2 weeks from tomorrow? James Boyd, we'll go in your Rolodex for this trivia question. Last night, round 1 of the NFL draft, we had no Indiana college players selected. We had one selected from an Indiana high school. Can you name the player that was drafted last night from an Indiana high school? 317-239-1070. Mark will take that offline for you here. A pair of tickets to the Sancio Grand Prix. What'd you make of Jacksonville last night? Going from 5 to 2. The Colts will see Travis Hunter twice a year.
I think it, one, highlights how great of a player Travis Hunter is for a team to move up and play that draft capital for that. I mean, they view him, obviously, as being one of the most elite players in this year's class and probably one of the more unique players in any class because of the dual threat capabilities on both sides of the ball. So I took it as sign me up for Javarius Ward following Brian Thomas Jr. and Kenny Moore lining up against Travis Hunter twice a year. I'm all in on that.
You know, I will give Houston and Jacksonville some credit here in recent drafts. Houston, the big trade up for Will Anderson Jr. right after they took C.J. Stroud a couple drafts ago, that has played out for them exceptionally well. And, you know, Jacksonville I'm always kind of torn on, James. Obviously, they've been beyond a thorn in the Colts side when they've played those home games here in recent years. Jacksonville went 9-8, 9-8, and then had 4 wins last year.
Yeah.
So, like, they haven't been the laughingstock over the last 3 years.
Right. They just had, like, the collapses and stuff.
So, it's like, what are they? And
how much of last year was Trevor being hurt? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I'm confused. Like, how much is Trevor Lawrence hanging on by a thread, and how much of it is, hey, just a little bit of infusion of new life? They'll be back to being a 9-8 type of football team. And I respect them for going up and getting a player like Hunter. I mean, it is, now again, how they utilize him and all of that. But, I mean, if you all of a sudden have a duo, and we saw Brian Thomas get behind the Colts defense quite often this past season. If you have a duo of him and Travis Hunter, that stresses some fear in an opposing defense there. And what could that do for Trevor Lawrence? So, you know, more than even Cam Ward going 1 overall, obviously Tennessee's going to reset it here with a new quarterback. That Hunter draft pick. And there's just some natural fascination into what he will be at the NFL level. But I do feel like Jacksonville, it's a little bit of a quick trigger we have of like, oh, they're the Jags, they just stink. Well, it's like, well, not really. I mean, 9-8, 2 out of the last 3 years. I mean, that's not horrific.
That's similar to how you feel about the Colts just without the division titles and obviously, playoff appearances. But, yeah, they're a team that's very intriguing to me. And honestly,
who would you rather bet on this year, the Colts or the Jags? If I said one of those two teams made the playoffs, who would you say?
I'd probably bet on the Jags because of the quarterback. You always go quarterback. I'm sorry. I mean, you can tell me you got Javarius Ward, Cam Bynum, and you can even tell me Tyler Warren is great. It doesn't matter about the quarterback, man. You need somebody.
Yeah, I think that's a great debate.
It is. But keep in mind, we're not debating quarterbacks that we necessarily haven't seen yet. Like, if you told me, do you think Cam Ward's going to be a dude his first year?
Sure.
I'm not sure, but I've seen a lot of Anthony Richardson, obviously, the last couple of years. And I've, afar seen a lot of Daniel Jones. Neither one moves me as much as a healthy Trevor Lawrence does.
Mark Dykton, we got a winner, correct?
Yeah, we did. Shout out to Jonathan. Got the answer. Do you want to reveal the answer?
Jonathan, shout out. James Boyd, we'll let you reveal who went 13th overall last night.
Kenneth Grant from Maryville High School in Michigan. He was also a national champ with the Wolverines.
Big fella.
Yeah, I was very happy for him. As I told you all, I believe I got invited to his draft party. He told me, like, hey, text my mom and come through. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a little busy like you are, my man, but I'm excited for him. Happy for him. Great kid. As I told you all, I believe on air, I covered him when he got his first Division I offer from, like, Bowling Green. And his first Power 5 offer, I believe, was from Purdue. And so you look up a few years later, and now that young man is, got generational wealth. So
yeah, I saw
happy for him.
Cool scene last night for his draft party. Drake Bowen, Notre Dame linebacker, and him were sharing a moment there. It was fun to see kind of some other region guys.
Yeah, and Drake is another one who's probably going to be an NFL player.
Sure.
Like those two, I actually wrote a joint story on them getting offers together.
Drake went to Andrean.
Yeah, which is like right across the street, basically. And the Battle of Broadway up there in the region. And he is another guy who's probably going to be an NFL player someday.
Yeah, he was tremendous for Notre Dame in that playoff run last year. Certainly local guys. We'll see about Jack Kaiser coming up probably more on Saturday, where he will go. And then, today we could get some Purdue flavor. Marcus Bowe, I think we've seen him on day 2 from a Notre Dame standpoint. Where does Xavier Watts, the safety, go? Benjamin Morrison, I think without the injuries, could have been a first-round pick. Where will he go? Those are probably some local names to watch.
CJ West from Indiana, maybe? Not yet?
I think probably Saturday. Him and Curtis Rourke, I'm probably more in the Saturday.
I think he's projected as a day 3 guy. But certainly, I think he will get his name called.
Yeah. Certainly he will. All right, much more on all of this. What do the Colts need tonight, day 2? We'll continue to talk about game 3 for the Pacers. Let's hit a morning checkdown. I wouldn't say Tyler Warren talks as much as, I don't know, maybe Jim Irsay, but he's also not a man of few words. A little glimpse into Tyler Warren last night describing himself as a 3-down tight end.
Yeah, I think that, it's important kind of in general as a football player to be able to be on the field as much as you can, help the team out as much as you can. And then as a tight end, it helps you kind of the whole offense, being able to block and be a threat in the passing game, opens up, everybody else in the offense and kind of just a scheme in general. So I think that is a lot of, really important for a tight end to be able to be on the field for all 3 downs.
26 of the 32 selections last night from the Big Ten in the SEC. It is certainly a power 2 in the arms race of college football, evident last night. Shedeur Sanders remains on the board. Will Johnson, a lot of people had him mocked very early in round 1. Sounds like a medical issue there, contributing to the Michigan cornerback falling out of round 1. For those that missed it late last night, the Giants came screaming back into round 1. They took a quarterback. It was Jackson Dart.
Yes.
Not Shedeur Sanders.
Russell Wilson will start for them per Brian Dable, but obviously they've kind of replenished their stock at quarterback, and we'll see if it works out differently this time around with the first-round quarterback, because we know their last one, I believe, is now here in Indianapolis, Daniel Jones.
And I'll tell you what, if you saw Mrs. Dart last night, boy, Rick Carlisle might want her behind him in the alley.
I want to see the faces of those guys.
So him, James Johnson, and Jackson Dart's mom.
Yeah, maybe Kenneth Grant, honestly, after watching him last night as well. All right, other items of note, NBA last night, the Knicks over the Pistons. That sounded like a pretty good game there. So Knicks now go up 2-1. That was on the road. The Thunder execute the biggest comeback in NBA playoff history, down 26, I believe it was, at halftime. Ja Morant left after 16 minutes due to injury. The Thunder now 3-0 in that series. And how about the Clippers? All over the Nuggets last night in LA. They take a 2-1 lead. Tonight, of course, it is game 3, 5.5-point underdog. What do you think? Any starting lineup changes for the Bucks?
I'm not so sure. Maybe you stick with what you already have and you expect a better version of
Portis
Damian
for
Lillard.
Lopez? No.
Maybe, but I mean, at some point you still have to play Lopez because you need some sort of depth or bench relief. So we'll certainly see. But like I said, stay attached to Damian Lillard because a couple go down and we know he can go on a heater.
Coming up in, I guess we got Major League Baseball ramp up today. Yesterday, a pretty quiet day around the diamond. My other items.
Be careful.
I was about to say, you see Mark grabbing the mic. As soon as you brought up baseball, he got that mic kind of quick.
Careful for
what? This is
what?
a critical 3-game weekend for you.
Oh my gosh, Mark. This is like me acting like the PGA Tour event this week's a big one after the Masters and Harbortown the last 2 weeks.
You can't be
shout out to Adam Shank,
bitching and moaning that the Cubs won 2 against the Dodgers and beat them 4 times out of 5, and it's not a big deal. And then if your Reds lose to the garbage Rockies, who are 4-20 on the season, Monday is going to hit you like a ton of bricks, my friend.
Mark celebrating a 2-game sweep, like, tonight if they stop the Bucks-Pacers game after a 2-0 lead for the Bucks. Said, all right, game ball, Doc Rivers, here you go.
Stop the count.
April 25th. Mark's trying to tell me I got a big series here in baseball.
I was about to say that game ball can get a little testy,
Unbelievable. IU in the portal, think mid-major, think shooter, think skill. And Nick Dorn from Elon, 6'7", I think more in the guard wing mode, though, than anything from a down-low standpoint. He did light up Notre Dame, as much as it pains me to say that.
I was looking. He
last fall
took 8 threes a game last year and made 35% of them.
Yeah, so again, high volume. I mean, I know obviously some of these numbers will come down because they're all playing on the same team, but skill and shooting has been an issue for IU in the past. As long as the mid-major guys can do it at the high major level, Darren DeVries, a big focus there. They did get a big dude, Sam Alexis, a little bit of rim protection there, some rebounding. He played at Florida, not a ton, actually got hurt late in the season, so it wasn't really a part of their tournament run, but a lot of front
But he gets the ring nonetheless, right?
Gets the ring.
Oh,
certainly.
man.
Gets the ring, and I would say gets a little payday now from Bloomington. He played in Chattanooga's first 2 years, Florida for a year, and now off the Bloomington and the Oval Test. Wrapped up yesterday over at IMS. We did see Kyle Larson in an early incident. Nothing too bad damage-wise. Takuma Sato followed shortly thereafter, but all in all, it seemed like at least a pretty productive 2 days for cars over there as they test out the new hybrid and get ready for the month of May.
I will say one more thing. We kind of went under the radar with all the draft stuff, but did you see the whole Elijah Arenas situation?
Yeah.
So he's a 5-star
Horrific.
commit to USC's. Gilbert Arenas' son was in a serious car crash Thursday morning and is in a medically induced coma, according to Shams Charania. So that is not good. That is a scary situation.
It sounds like they did this because he inhaled a lot of smoke, and I guess when you do that, they automatically do that for you to kind of regulate your body. So hopefully there isn't a lot of like physical damage as far as broken bones and things like that, but certainly something to keep an eye on, and prayers out for his family and just everything involved with that, because this is a young man, and whether he plays basketball or not, you never want to see a young person or anybody be in a situation like that.
Yeah, heralded recruit, Arizona, right?
USC.
Yeah. Who's
and
Arizona?
he is
LeBron's
monster.
kid going to Arizona?
Yeah, Bryce.
That's right. Okay. Yeah, so just an awful, awful story. So best to him, certainly, in his recovery. I know a few people asking about Jeff and where he is at from a YouTube chat standpoint. No worries. He'll be back on Monday. So we'll be back here to our full crew coming up on Monday. What do the Colts need? Day 2 of the draft. We'll do that coming up on the other side. This is the Fan Morning Show, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan. I don't even think I'm half joking. I can't recall the last time Colts fans have been this universally happy. Maybe since when Blue threw it in the Allegiant toss on the first throw of the game. He's so good at that.
Yeah, or maybe, it was very short-lived because they lost the game, but that throw from Anthony to Alec Pierce last year in week 1, that was nuts.
It was.
I remember letting out an audible gasp in the press box. Seriously,
Yeah.
I know I'm grasping at straws here, but that throw was incredible, and every Colts fan for the next 5 minutes was like, we got our guy. And now, obviously, we see where we are.
Mark diked in with the tweet that I asked for. Very simple. Do you like the Colts selection of Tyler Warren?
Mm-hmm.
538 votes. Here we are about an hour
551.
into it.
We're jumping up.
Okay, go ahead, Mark. You have the updated poll.
97.5% say yes, and then the idiots that Kevin has described them as 2.5%. I want to know who those 2.5% are and what they wanted instead.
Jason, the 3% that have voted no must be Shadur Sanders and his family. Good one, Jason.
That's tough.
Pat yourself on
So
the back
this is like
here.
the same family of like the Tyrese Halliburton haters?
Yes.
Where it's like, we're just dissenting just to dissent?
Literally. It's kind of like our Purdue-Indiana poll from a couple weeks ago, James. Remember?
It's Patriots fans.
Which I won, by the way.
Are you cheering for
Thank
Kelvin
you.
Sampson, or are you cheering for
I did win
Purdue?
that poll. It was very by the skin of my teeth. It wasn't like this one, but a win is a win, baby.
What do you want to see tonight? What would be an ideal day 2 situation?
I thought you were going Pacers for a second. I was like, all right,
well,
either way.
we do
we'll
need
get
to
back
go,
into that.
Yeah, we do need to go Pacers
but
as well.
Colts-wise, selfishly, I'm like, trade up so I can go home early but watch the game. But I think that I probably want to see them upgrade one of their defensive lines or offensive line, one of the two. You got to go in the trenches, and that's such a Chris Ballard MO, right? And then
would you be good with both?
I would. I think after you handled one of your arguably their biggest positional need in tight end, skill position player, someone who I think is very capable of helping you immediately, I'm fine with doing the less sexy picks and addressing the trenches because you still need more. And I know, you're thinking about possibly it could be right tackle, it could be guard, it could be a swing, whatever the case may be. Braid Smith is in the last year of his contract. You don't have an answer at right guard. Defensively, Latu is the only defensive end you have under contract through 2026, through next season. And then as far as defensive tackles go, yes, I love Grover Stewart, love DeForest Buckner. Do not always love when Grover Stewart gives me a pat on the back because his hands are very heavy. And I tell him I'm 150 pounds, brother. Don't break me down. But you need to replenish that behind those guys too because they're not going to be there forever.
Boy, I could not disagree with this more here from Luke. And I know Luke's an avid listener, so maybe I should go with a nice compliment before I rip the tweet. Luke, thank you for listening. He goes, if I remember right, the poll looks similar to this when the Colts drafted Anthony Richardson. I think it was just because the Colts took a quarterback instead of bringing in a guy once again. I would strongly disagree with that.
I would say they were definitely more optimistic than they were
but
not.
97.9%.
No, there were a lot of people telling me there was
a lot of people were like, you can't teach accuracy.
Yeah, a lot of people were saying Will Levis. The national people were saying Will Levis.
Right.
So
I would.
Yeah,
This is not the I feel this way right now that Purdue and IU fans are shaking hands, and let me explain. Purdue football fans and IU basketball fans are shaking hands. They're saying, guys, we're in this together. Purdue football fans are saying anybody but Ryan Walters. Indiana basketball fans are saying anybody but Mike Woodson. That's how they feel about Barry Odom and Darren DeVries. Anybody but the other. I don't think that's being played out here at all. I think legitimately Tyler Warren was who Colts fans wanted. It matched their need. Again, historical production in college. I think comparing Tyler Warren to Anthony Richardson in any way, shape, or form from a collegiate standpoint would be ludicrous.
I'll have to dig in the archives, but there's no way that's accurate.
No chance.
Zero chance.
I think if you did that, I think there was a section of the audience, I think it's what Luke is probably getting at of, finally you've taken a swing at quarterback. Yeah, that's right, but there were still some Anthony Richardson was the third quarterback taken in that draft. That's different. No. I can't go there at all. I'd throw linebacker, James. I know you mentioned that a little bit. I'd throw linebacker tonight. Does that get into round 2 or 3?
Bigger need.
I think you can make a case it might be linebacker.
Yeah.
If Zaire Franklin were to get hurt tomorrow, right now their number 2 linebacker is a rookie who started, 5 games last year and has had offseason surgery?
Yeah, fair.
So that's a lot. And Jalen Carlisle's made a position switch from college, and he was a round 5 pick. He wasn't, even whatever, a round 2 or round 3. So I'm curious about linebacker. And then do we see anything sneakily? And by that I mean this. Ballard, half jokingly, half serious, probably very serious, said, I'm going to trade back tomorrow night. If and when that does happen, if they get an additional pick tonight, could that be a quarterback? Could that be a running back? Is there something else that we're not maybe thinking about?
Kicker.
How about you double up on tight end and get Mason Taylor?
Boy, I have seen a couple people mention that. Are they serious with that?
I don't know. But I was thinking about it. I'm like, it's crazy, but it's also like
I wouldn't do it.
I wouldn't do it either. But have you seen the tight end room behind Tyler Warren?
But yeah, I hear where people come from, but probably not on that front. We'll get into Game 3, Pacers Bucks. Get your reset for tonight. Certainly a busy night of sports in the Circle City. We'll talk about it all one final time here on The Fan. Shout out to the Luxor Hotel in Vegas. I know some degenerates staying out there this weekend. A few has-beens, maybe a few never was. Mark Dykton, you said you stayed at the Luxor?
Yep. Yeah, my
How about that?
sister-in-law, when they got married about a decade ago, we stayed out there. So it's the Pyramid Hotel out in Las Vegas. It's very cool. It's a very odd elevator situation because there are elevators that go sideways in it because of the shape of the building.
What the hell?
Yeah.
I stayed at the Flamingo Hotel in Vegas before.
It's a fun hotel, though.
Real flamingos, too.
Gosh, this time last year, Mark, I was getting ready to head out to Vegas. That was when Scotty Scheffler got canned.
Yeah, that was an interesting show, that's for sure.
Louisville PD got a hold of him. You like any Pacer action tonight? I love the Game 2 action. I kind of like taking Pacers 5.5.
I already made a parlay for it tonight, and that was part of it. So.
What do you got?
Let me pull it up here. I can't remember.
Pacers
exactly
5.5 point underdog out there. I kind of like just taking that.
Yeah, I did a little bit more. I did some point totals and everything like that. Hold on 1 second as it's loading, because I hit a 5-leg parlay yesterday with the draft order being in sequential order, so that was a nice little payday.
How many picks did you go?
The first 5.
Wow,
in correct order.
Nice work.
Mm-hmm. So the one tonight that I have, I don't know if we're gonna make this an official fan morning show about it or not. Pacers +5. That's what I got it at. It's now at 5.5, but I got it at +5. Giannis over 32.5 points because I think he's gonna ball out tonight. Tyrese over 19.5 points, and then Andrew Nembhard over 10.5 points. So looking at about a $5 bet, nothing crazy. Payouts $60 if it hits.
Boy, that Nembhard assignment. James, we talked a little bit about it throughout the show, but what is Lillard? Is Lillard about to be stronger for both halves, or is he about to be weaker? I mean, if you look at Game 2, I was stunned he played 37 minutes. He was very good in the first half. He was very below average in the second half. What could shift this series? I don't really think much, to be honest with you. But if Lillard gets to that level, that is probably one of the only things I give pause to.
Yeah, I would also like to see, if you're a Pacers fan, Tyrese shoot the ball better. He hasn't shot it to the level that
17 from 3 in the first 2 games.
he hasn't shot it to the level that we know he can. And if he's clanking some shots early, does that change how the game kind of unfolds? If he's making shots early, does that also change how the game unfolds in favor of the Pacers? So we'll see there. But to your point about Dame, he's just such a great player that part of me always wants to think that he'll have a game, a moment. But then again, we haven't seen somebody go through what he's going through, having cleared the blood clot, off blood thinners. It's amazing health-wise, but basketball-wise, there's no frame of reference to maybe guide us on what we could see.
Again, coming up, that's 8 o'clock tonight. Our coverage at 7:30. Mark, let's do a little Jiffy Lube stat of the day. I don't know if we got time for the full pop quiz. We'll throw maybe question 1, though, in. We'll take it offline. 317-239-1070. This is a freebie Friday.
So doing pop quiz or oil or
let's just oil it up here.
Okay.
We won't go full pop quiz here.
We won't go full pop quiz, but let's play the sponsor real quick.
All right, 14th overall pick, last night's draft. The Colts again took Tyler Warren. Can you name the last tight end? I think we might have talked about this on air earlier this week.
Oh, we definitely did.
Name the last tight end the Colts drafted in the first round of the NFL draft. Was it A, Kobe Fleener, B, Jack Doyle, C, Dallas Clark, or D, John Mackey? Boy, I forgot Fleener went that high. That was the double dip, Scotty. Kobe Fleener, Dwayne Allen, back to back. That 2012 draft, the Andrew Luck draft, you went offense, if I'm not mistaken, like the first 5 picks. I think you went Vic Ballard at one point. Very anti-Grixon, yeah.
I was like, we're not going to see 5 straight offensive picks in this year's draft.
Freebie Friday, Jiffy Lube Oil Change, your Indy's oil change since 1985. So give us a call, 317-239-1070, the last first-round tight end. Yeah, 5 straight offensive picks would be quite something. Better chance we see quarterback tonight or running back tonight from the Colts?
Ooh. I'm going to say running back. Man, if they take a quarterback, the amount of
You're going to have
headlines
to
we
work
will
a little bit tonight.
Yeah, and I wouldn't mind it, certainly. Controversy pays the bills a little bit in the Boyd household. But, I mean, wouldn't we all kind of react like a little bit, eyebrows raised?
Oh, certainly. Yeah, I mean, definitely.
I'm like, you take a guy on day 2 of the draft, you'd expect him to play at some point. I mean, at least he's your backup, and you already got 2 who are competing for the starting job. So where are the snaps going to come from? So I don't think that that's realistic. But day 3, you could talk me into day 3 for sure.
Now, this is very big picture thinking, and it's probably a ludicrous thought to even bring up, James, when I think every Colts fan would agree that at the very least Chris Ballard and probably Shane Steichen are on the hot seat for this season. I'm curious, if you were to trade back at all tonight, would you look to add a 2026 draft pick? I say that because is there any seed of doubt in your mind that you need some ammo to move up next year for a quarterback?
Are you allowed to think like that?
I know. Probably not.
Will you be here next year if things, go
yes.
awry?
If you take Ballard at his word, I have to make the best organizational decisions or whatever he has said regards to the draft. And again, last night we didn't see anything different from Ballard. So this falls into Ballard's words at the end of the season have matched all his actions. And I don't know, maybe tonight they'll do something crazy, but that is just a brief thought that I've had of, would you do anything to add, even if you added a 3rd-round pick for next year?
Yeah.
That allows you to, have a little bit of a trade package if and when you need to move up. My answer to my own question is no. It's probably a dumb comment to even say, but it's 9:52 on a Friday. I barely had any sleep, so there you go.
Yeah, I'm rich on the sleep train, but, I mean, every time we think that this could be different or the end of the rope, there is always a little rabbit in the hat, I guess. And so we'll see how they kind of approach this for sure, because I do think that you kind of have to think long-term and short-term, but just how – I know Ballard always says, I don't want to, hurt the franchise by not prioritizing the future. But, man, if there's pressure on you, it's this year for sure because of, Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones.
I thought I was seeing things when I saw Nate Atkins go to the coffee machine at 11:30 last night.
I wish you all could have seen the reaction from Kevin, because he turned around like he had heard somebody trying to break into the media room.
Which at one point I did think somebody was. I was like, what? Is that tea, or are you really drinking coffee right now? He's like, yeah, I got 2 more stories and a podcast to record. And I swear, when I woke up this morning at like 5:30, I rolled over and started scrolling through Twitter, and I saw Nate Atkins had tweeted like 30 minutes prior. Do you think Nate stayed up till like 5:30 or 5?
He might have, but not me. Oh, no. I was, as soon as my sister says I got home, dead to the bed.
Okay, remind you for tonight, 8 o'clock, our coverage will begin 7:30. That's Game 3, Pacers and Bucks. Draft coverage, 7 o'clock. You can find that. Reminder, ESPNU should not be blacked out for those of you that have access to ESPNU. Game 3 tonight, Game 4, 9:30 on Sunday. Big listening audience today. We can't thank you guys enough. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Mark Dykton. We appreciate all your listenership throughout the week. We'll have you covered on Monday. Everybody